say it. Say it again, Todd, so everyone can hear you. Say exactly what you just said to us.
I don't even remember. What about?
Have a day.
Have a day.
Have a day.
Those three words. Have a day.
We're talking about something else. So I got fired up.
Oh, we'll get into that. We got a lot of news to get into. Okay, signings, trades, obviously the big one, and we were live yesterday, hustling with the crew behind the scenes. Kratz and me doing a little Juan Soto trade action. So we'll get to that. Before we jump into everything, I will say, and we'll get to JJ Watt's comments too about Shohei Ohtani, everyone weighing in. We did just have the winter meetings. They're done. You have a podium there. You have the whole industry there. You have media there. No pressure. No one's expected to do anything. You're a player sitting around. You're not expected to sign. You're a team sitting around. That's not their job. But you want to see more. I mean, this action that we're getting now is when everyone left there. So wise move by FT. I'll continue to say it, Kratz, to stay in Florida, the epicenter of the Shohei Ohtani discussions and the visiting to Dunedin, right? We were on top of it.
You were on top of it. You knew that Florida was where it was going to be, which nobody would ever say that ever. Florida gets one good month a year. It's March when it's spring training. And then other than that, they pretend to celebrate Christmas. Like they don't even have real evergreen trees there. So they got to bring them in.
Yep.
Like it's just not like where Todd and I are. We got some snow this morning. Like the snow was coming down. It's a Merry Christmas.
I'm good. All the palm trees are lined up with Christmas lights.
I'm with you, Kratzy. If it's not in the 30s, or I'll give you 45 or less degrees. It just doesn't seem right.
Need a winter jacket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bundle
Scotty's
up.
down there looking tan. Tan for Christmas pictures. You better be in like Costa Rica or something if you're
Mexico next week. Get ready for that.
Okay, you'll be there. Get ready for that.
I'm doing FT shows from Mexico. So
let's go.
Anyway, all right. Today we're gonna. What's up?
La Cucaracha.
Hey, we'd be remiss. The Happy Hanukkah starts tonight too. So Happy Hanukkah to all our buddies, all our Jewish friends. Thank you.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Yes. Let me give you the guest list. Okay, we got 4 today. Ken Rosenthal in 10 minutes. JayFish after that. Mike Petriello making his FT debut. Jack Curry making his FT debut. So we'll be all over this. Let's get your thoughts. And Kratz and me went over it at length. So Todd Father, you get to lead the way. You also work for we're charging the damn mound. The New York Yankees offense last year was putrid by just about anybody's observations, including their own. So how do you feel now?
I feel really good. I feel really damn good. I think this was the number one most important thing they were trying to do, getting the trade. They talked about Bellinger, but the big thing they wanted to do was get this trade done, and I think they did. The guys they're giving up, there's some really good players, but at the same time, this is the guy they needed. This is a left-handed bat they've been looking for. Everybody talks about the short porch. He can go to all fields. It doesn't matter. Juan Soto is a very good baseball player. Let's not forget Verdugo is also going to be out there as well. So think about that outfield: Verdugo, Judge, Soto, and then you got Trent Grisham coming in too as well as the 4th outfielder. Pretty damn good. You lose a guy like Higashioka, who's a solid catcher. Hopefully Trevino is 100%. I got to see him the other day actually, and he told me he is pretty much 100% ready to rock. So it's going to be a fun year now, and I don't think they're done. I think they have all their sights set on Yamamoto as well. This is just the start of it, and the people in the Northeast are very excited. You should have seen some of the headlines today in the newspapers. Very, very, very nice. Very, very smooth.
This guy's on track for the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's 25 years old. You got to keep doing it for a while. But, I was looking at his numbers again from last year, Kratz, because we like to, project and predict what players are going to do going forward. Last year, I feel like he was barely talked about, and he was, a top 5 hitter or so. I mean, he is incredible. I still think almost everyone agrees there is another step that you could see from him in terms of his offensive game. We'll get to the defense, too, at some point. And actually, Ken Rosenthal wrote a great article about it. So maybe we'll kick off our conversations with Ken about the defensive alignment for the Yanks. But also on the other side, we learned a little bit about the prospects and the pitching. I do want to point this out because we're going to probably be pretty Yankee heavy. So I'll sneak this in while I have a moment, Kratz. The Padres have lost a ton of pitching this offseason. They're not going to re-sign Blake Snell. They're not going to re-sign Josh Hader. Nick Martinez already left to the Reds, and I'm missing multiple other names.
Lugo.
Waka, Lugo's gone. Waka, they didn't bring back. That's a ton of pitching. They lost like half of their innings from this past season, and this is a great way to say, you know what? We're not rebuilding by any means. We had a really terrible year based on what was on paper for us. And actually, a lot of those dudes did perform. It just didn't all come together. They were brutal in one-run games, brutal in extra inning games. So you can definitely make the case that despite them trading Juan Soto to the Yankees, and I think Soto's going to have a dynamite year with the Yanks and make them better, the Padres still might get better next year. They acquired a number of young pitchers that are going to be contributing to the big league club right off the jump. Basically, all of them will be contributing right off the jump, aside probably from Drew Thorpe, who will be up at some point this coming season. And according to many of the reports, it looked like he was the guy that was holding it up temporarily, where, remember, it came out that they were talking. Then it kind of sounded like talks were stalled. And a couple of reports were saying, well, the Yankees were trying to hold on to Drew Thorpe. He was one of the better pitchers in the minor leagues last year.
He was, and he's refined. From what I'm looking at, he's refined. A lot of the pitching prospects out of the Yankees org are dudes that just absolutely blow cheese. They come down to the lab, they throw a hunch, top of the zone, and then they learn how to spin something, whether it becomes the sweeper, whether it becomes that slider that goes straight down, or it's a 12-6 banger. They establish a second pitch, and then they just blow through the minor leagues. Drew Thorpe is more like a 92, 94 guy, touches 95, kind of refined pitcher. I made the comparison last night when we were talking with Kyle Glazer, and I don't think he quite understood what I meant, but like a guy in the minor leagues, we call him the average white righty. He was 88 to 90 miles an hour. They were littered in AAA, littered everywhere. And velocities jumped. So now the average white righty in AAA is 92 to 94. What the separator is what Drew Thorpe has. He has the ability to locate pitches, which gets guys out way more in the minor leagues. So his refined skills helped him be so successful in the minor leagues. But how's that going to translate to the big leagues? They liked him because he's a good option piece. There's an opportunity for the Padres to slot him in as their Michael Wacha partway through the year. Michael King will take over kind of the Nick Martinez role, or he may fill in as the solidified piece in their rotation. But I think the Padres, and this is why I want to ask Ken, if the Padres did enough to push themselves over the hump to make the playoffs.
No, well, they're just getting started with their offseason. That was the whole point here, is they needed financial flexibility in their mind. And hey, no one's going to criticize the Padres for how much they've spent on their ball club over the last few years. But they were going to take it down a notch, but not as many notches as people think. That's the thing. They're in on players right now. They're going to make moves.
I'll see if I want to see. I know Jung-Ho Lee is one of the guys that they're in on, but I want to see. I want to see if they actually do something. Because with Soto gone, they saved that money that they needed to take a loan out for last year, that $50 million. Like, they can't just keep working in a deficit. Like they've clearly shown they can't work in a deficit. And so they need guys, just like the Yankees need guys in the lineup from last year, to step up. And the Padres are going to need to step up.
But yeah, but Preller, the GM of the Padres, AJ Preller, said that they still want starting pitching and a high leverage reliever. They'd like to add someone for the 8th or 9th inning. So, Kratz, I think they've still got something in them, even if they don't end up with Lee, who I think will be a hot commodity for a number of teams as well. I think San Francisco might go hard after him, or Bellinger, depending on what they're looking to do. But I do think San Diego's still got multiple transactions to go.
I just don't see where. I don't see where, because a guy like Kimbrel would have been a spot. He's already traded. Preller already traded Kimbrel away one time. So, but I see them in that like $10 million range a year Kimbrel went for 13. You know, I have a hard time seeing, other than like how the Phillies kind of built their bullpen last year, just piecing the bullpen together, and they still have rotation issues.
Yeah, but dude, okay, so we're showing you some of the pitching that they acquired, but let me also mention how many relievers are still on the market. I know many teams obviously are talking to Jordan Hicks, so that might be a little too pricey for them.
Yep.
Chapman,
yeah.
Robert Stevenson is a super hot commodity. Hector Neris, there are a lot of names, I'm telling
Too
you.
hot.
David Robertson coming off a great year. I just think they'll play in those waters. I can go on and on. There are plenty of still like effective relievers that are on the open market that I think they'll kind of add to. All right, back to the Yanks for a second with Todd Father. So Judge is entering his age 32 season. Garrett Cole's entering his age 33 season. Obviously, he's better than ever right now. But, I mean, you know this. You had to painfully watch some Yankee games that were really difficult and really unconventional from them over the last few years. If you look at what happened in 2023, everyone was like, this stops now. Enough, right? So you've got not only a bad season they're coming off of, and almost, I would say, a chip on their shoulder, right? Even with the analytics talk, I think that's kind of pissing the front office off. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you have two bona fide superstars in their prime. You have a top three, at least, starting pitcher in the sport and a top three overall player in the sport, both in their prime. And primes don't last forever. So the time is now, right?
So another thing with getting this Juan Soto trade, well, two things. It takes the stress off some of the other big guns. I mean, you think about Giancarlo Stanton. Listen, we got a Juan Soto. We got an Aaron Judge. Just be yourself. You think about Anthony Rizzo. You think about some of these guys that are huge stars that don't have to hump that workload. It would be great to see, but at the same time, if one guy's doing well, piggyback off that guy. So they have this nice combination of hitters where they don't always have to do it all by themselves anymore. They have a great group, and when they understand their roles, where they're hitting in the lineup, what they're trying to do, and they're focusing, if we're going to walk this guy, who are you going to next? You know what I mean? So it's a good plethora lineup. Now, listen, you put Judge in center field. I know Ken talked about it as well. Say all of a sudden he needs a break or he's got a little ailment going on. Trent Grisham can play that position. So if Judge needs to get a day where he needs to, be the DH, give Giancarlo a day off or two or whatever it is, just depends on how it's going. They have a plethora of things they can do. And, Aaron Boone, if I'm him, I am so excited because I can manipulate my lineup in any which way I can right now, and it's going to work, and it should work out.
Where are we at on Judge over-under games in center field in terms of what you think he'll do and what you're comfortable with? And there's the article from Ken, and Ken should be joining us pretty soon to elaborate on this, but I'll get thoughts from the player's perspective here first, and Ken's not the only one. There have been quite a few people over the last 24 hours that are like, be careful. And Ken's article included how Bryce Harper suddenly goes from the outfield to the infield. Mookie Betts suddenly goes from the outfield to the infield. I'm not saying that for Judge. I'm just saying, is center field not one of what's the power rankings of the most physically long-term taxing positions in baseball, that if you have a long-term asset that you spend a ton of money on and your most important thing is to keep him on the field, what's the most taxing from top to bottom?
Catching.
Okay.
Yep.
Shortstop.
Okay.
Center field.
There you go.
But I also think because more is demanded of especially shortstop, center field, you see when guys age. That's where I'm not 100% in the camp of what Ken was writing about, is you see guys aging. I get it. You have to back up way more plays because you're always running in center field. Base hit to left, you're moving to the left field. Base hit to right, you're moving to right field. Like, you're always moving in center. I get that part of it. But what you see is guys starting to age out of those positions. So you can't, like Derek Jeter at the end of his career, they were barely even mowing the infield at Yankee Stadium. Like, because his range was less, you start to see that without other things to help. So it's going to be the same thing in center field with Judgy. I don't think you'll see it this year. To me, I think if you ask Aaron Judge, because he's that kind of guy, he's going to say, yes, I'm going after it. if I'm Aaron Boone, and I think this is where picking up Trent Grisham actually is more than just a salary pickup for the Padres. To me, if you put Aaron Judge in center field for 120 games, you have had an incredible season, because that means he gets 20 at DH, 20 in right field. And I think that will keep him on the field. Now, are we talking about longevity of his entire contract? No, I don't want to see him in center field the whole time. But this is this year.
Scott, just think of this in a couple of years. I don't know. I just thought, just imagine having that presence of Aaron Judge playing first base. Boom. Boom.
You tell me if you're at third.
Hey, listen.
How's that feel?
It's not such a dream. Like that could happen. I mean, I'm not saying it will, but it could. I mean, I would be in heaven. All you got to do is just to get it over there. I mean, you could throw it too high. You're just gonna be like Michael Jordan, just go and get it. I'm just putting it out there for people to think about. I'll probably get a couple reactions online about that, but listen.
No, you'll get good reactions though, Todd. Not now. You're saying, hey, listen,
not now. Down
when
the road.
The dude's 35 years old, 36, 37 years old at some point, right? Yeah, it's an option to play first base.
This year, they have Soto for 1 year. Judgy can play 100 to 120 games, because you can't count on the Martian. You can't count on him coming back and just being like, yep, I'm in here. You're going to have to slowly work him in. And there's moving pieces all the time. And I think while they have no minor league pitchers left, since they got rid of 10 in the last 2 days, they do have a plethora in the outfield of positions that they struggled in. They struggled in putting runs on the board, and they picked up guys who put runs on the board. Verdugo isn't an all or nothing guy. No. Soto's not an all or nothing guy. I get it. Trent Grisham hit 191 or whatever it was. He helps out in that defensive. So I think their depth is really, really good, and they already have a lot of depth in the minor leagues. So it solidifies issues that the Yankees had.
Yeah, I'm all about that. And yeah, Dominguez coming back will obviously even add to that depth. My only thing is also like Verdugo entering free agent season. He's going to want to play just about every day, or he's going to be pissed. He's that kind of guy, fiery, and he'll say it too. Like, hey, I want to be playing, right? So just throwing it out there. Let's see what Ken thinks about this, because he wrote about it this morning. Ken Rosenthal joining us right now, looking fresh off the winter meetings, nice and well rested. Hey, Ken, you're fooling the world if you haven't slept much. So let's dive right into it. Yeah, well, fooled. Your thoughts on the Soto trade, and then eventually can get into the defensive alignment for the Yankees as well.
Sure. Well, I love the trade actually for both. The Yankees we know who Juan Soto is, right? This Hall of Fame type player. It might only be 1 year, but it's going to be a heck of a year watching him. And him and Judge back-to-back in the same lineup, which I presume will be the case, that will be just electric to watch. That's cool. And from a baseball fan's perspective, it doesn't matter if you like the Yankees or hate them. Just the idea of Juan Soto in Yankee Stadium, obviously, if you're a Red Sox fan, this isn't such a great thing, or anybody in AL East, but it is an exciting thought. And I actually thought the Padres did well in addition to the Yankees. The Padres were dealing with a situation where they were trading a player who was going to earn $30 million plus for 1 year and was not going to sign an extension. He's going to the open market. So to get back what they did, two pitchers who almost certainly will help them this season, and I think Thorpe will help them this season, along with Vasquez and Brito, who are guys that could fill in, and of course Michael King, and Higashioka, the backup catcher. All of that was pretty good. And you're never going to get full value. You're not going to get back what you traded for Juan Soto, but they did well. Now, the defensive question that I wrote about is the one that involves Judge going to center and how often he will play center. And one of the things I tried to stress in the column was that we speculate about these things, as I was doing in the column, but you never know how it's going to play out, which guys are going to get hurt, for how long. If Stanton is on the IL for any length of time, as he probably will be, then the DH spot opens up and they can maybe do some things to slide people around. Get Grisham into the outfield, DH Soto or Judge or Verdugo on a given day. There will be possibilities. As Eric was saying, they now have depth. At the same time, it does concern me putting Aaron Judge in the outfield when he's 6'7", 282 pounds. In center field, because it is a more taxing position. And I quoted Sean Casey from his podcast yesterday, basically saying, no, I don't want to see this. That might have been a little extreme, but there is a concern there. And the contrast I drew in the column with Mookie Betts and Bryce Harper, basically guys who are the same age, and they're moving to less taxing positions. That to me is significant. Judge is a guy who has had some injuries in his career, some of them flukish that have nothing to do with really how he plays the game, but there is an increased risk of injury in center field. And when you have 8 years to go on a 9-year, $360 million contract and you're in your early 30s, it's not ideal. Maybe the Martian, as Scott said, comes up in the middle of the season and they have to do some other things, maybe trade Verdugo at that point. Who knows? Maybe other guys get hurt and things happen and they get other players. There's all kinds of possibilities. But for me, as for Sean Casey, there's just a concern here with playing Judge in center field on a regular basis.
Okay. So one team is looking to play someone in centers. The other team is a playoff team. It's not like the Padres traded to the Yankees and the Padres were a cellar dweller for years. Like, this is a playoff team. Have the Padres done enough in what they brought back? Because you said they got the few pieces that they have to be a playoff team, because they're still trying to make the playoffs. And if so, are they moving a platinum glove winner from right field over to center field? The same exact issue that we have with Judge moving from right field, to me, a gold glove winner in right field, to center field. So the Padres are the other half of this. Are they going to be able to do enough, or have they done enough to be a playoff team?
They haven't done enough yet. There's no question about that. And keep in mind who they lost. All of those starting pitchers: Snell, Wacha, Lugo, Nick Martinez from the bullpen, Hader, Luis Garcia. That's 6 guys who I believe threw about 500 innings last year. And a lot of them are quality innings. So when you get back Michael King and Thorpe, who hasn't even pitched in the majors yet, and 2 other guys who are probably back-end guys at best, you haven't solved the problem. I don't expect that they're going to necessarily solve the problem in one off season. And I've talked about this. We wrote about this in The Athletic. This team has financial issues. They had to move the salary to do some other things. There were reports overnight about them being interested in Jung-Hoo Lee, Korean outfielder. Maybe that's a move they make, but they're still going to need pitching. And part of the motivation for this trade was not only to get the pitchers that they acquired from the Yankees, but also to create payroll flexibility to maybe go out and do some other things in free agency. So this is something that, to me, and I said this on the show, if I recall, a week ago, was inevitable. They had to trade Soto for 2 reasons: financial reasons and to help fix their pitching staff, and they took a step toward that with this deal.
And before we move on from this deal, Ken, I'll mix in 2 fan questions that are in the same range here. Jake said, obviously Yamamoto is the main focus, but are the Yanks done looking for more bats? And Matthew said, if Yamamoto doesn't land with the Yankees, who do they pivot to and go get? They still need 1 to 2 starters with Nestor Cortez, Carlos Rodon, 5th starters, all question marks in his mind, compared to obviously last year when it was like Cole and then until Michael King at the end of the season.
Right. Yamamoto certainly is a target. I don't know that you can count on Yamamoto with Steve Cohen in the mix and other teams as well. And we don't know his desires necessarily, but the Yankees won't necessarily get outbid, but they might by Cohen. The fact of the matter is they have a lot of competition there. And if they don't get him, do they then make another trade? I don't know if they can make a 3rd trade after Verdugo and Soto to deplete their farm system further to get one of the starters that is available. The free agents out there: Blake Snell, obviously, Jordan Montgomery, former Yankee, but it's not a particularly deep, high-end group. And there will be competition for those pitchers as well. And there are questions about those pitchers, as there are for any free agent as well. So I'm not sure exactly what they do if they don't get Yamamoto. And it almost seems to me, guys, like just as the Yankees needed Soto and there was no alternative, Yamamoto is almost in that same category for them. And maybe he prefers the Yankees and their history to the Mets. The money's going to be there probably either way. But it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. And as far as adding further position players, I'm not sure they need to do much more along those lines. 3rd base is, I guess, a question for them next year. But they've got LeMahieu, they've got Rizzo back, they've got Glaber still at second, Volpe at short. I don't know that they really need anything more than really depth.
I want to move on to Eduardo Rodriguez. I mean, what a great pickup this was for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Kind of solidifies the five guys that they look like they're going to go moving forward. Do you see anything else with the Diamondbacks moving forward, and do you like this trade?
I like this signing, yes. Although Eduardo Rodriguez has had some issues off the field that give me some pause, quite frankly. And I would expect that Mike Hazen, because of his history with Eduardo Rodriguez going back to their days together in Boston, would have vetted that thoroughly. But the idea of Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, and Eduardo Rodriguez at the top of the rotation, that is intriguing. And that is a pretty special threesome right there. You've got, of course, Kelly and Gallen were one of the better duos in the majors last year. If Eduardo Rodriguez gets back to who he was at his best, they have something really special. Now, as for what else they might do, it seemed to me their bigger priority even was a bat and a right-handed bat to go into their mix and balance out their lineup. They addressed third base with Suarez, but they need one more bat, and they're looking for that right now.
Let me dive in on the Reds here too. I've been talking with the guys about this beforehand. The Candelario signing, to me, with all the infielders they have, it was very confusing. Where are they going to put everybody? What do you think the Reds are doing? Because they need pitching, and right now, the 3 years, 45 of Candelario. I mean, great, good for him, but at the same time, I didn't think they need another infielder. Did you?
No, but the way they explained it, or will explain it, is that with the addition of Candelario, they moved Steer to the outfield. They did need an outfielder, and now Spencer Steer can be in the outfield. They do have what appears to be 6 infielders for 4 spots. Keep in mind, though, Votto is retired, and you have the DH, so it's kind of 6 infielders for 5 spots. And I'm talking about Matt McClain and Dela Cruz and Marte and Jonathan India and Christian Encarnacion-Strand. It's quite a group. I'm missing somebody there, but there's one more. They have depth now. They haven't had depth in the past, and that has bothered them, and it's been a problem for them at times. So while obviously all of us are going to think the move is to trade one of those guys, probably Encarnacion-Strand or India, for a starting pitcher, I'm not totally convinced the Reds will do it. They're going to have to get the right deal because they like, especially, Dela Cruz, McClain, and Marte. Those guys they view as potential stars. At the same time, they're going to have some things to figure out here, and if they're not going to be able to spend on the pitching market for free agent pitchers, with Eduardo Rodriguez getting $20 million a year last night, then a trade becomes that much more logical for them.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the next steps here and the messages that were just sent. So I'm wondering if they said, well, we're not going to be able to play at the top of the starting pitching free agent market. Okay, I didn't necessarily expect that. 2, do they feel like the asking price for players like Tyler Glasnow and Dylan Cease were getting too high and they were going to spend money elsewhere, right? I mean, Glasnow's $25 million, Candelario 15 a year here. And then 3, you did have Nick Krall coming out saying that they did not plan on trading Jonathan India. He said that the other day. He doesn't have to say that. He could just say, hey, listen, we talked to teams about everybody. So in my mind, we're doing the math again, like you said, there's just too many players for not enough spots. So Candelario is going to play. They just gave him a lot of money. I'm certainly confused about this one in my mind. If I got $45 million extra, I'm a lower market team. I'm calling up some of those guys and seeing if they want contract extensions too, so I can make sure this is going to be sustained success for Cincinnati.
They got outbid for Sonny Gray, so that's one. And for the top guys, they're just not going to be in position to do that in their minds. Now, maybe we can argue they have the money. They just don't want to spend the money. This is the age-old question with any team. They're all rich, but that's their choice. They're a lower revenue team. They're not going in that direction. I'm with you, Scott. I believe, too, that a trade would be quite obvious here, but they have had depth problems in the past. And when Nick Krall says that about Jonathan India, he doesn't want to trade any of his guys. He wants them all. He likes them all. And India is a leader on that team, kind of the glue in some ways, and I'm sure he would be concerned about that. But the addition of Candelario adds leadership and perhaps gives them, in that regard, almost a replacement for India and a guy who is really well thought of with Candelario in the game. Candelario is highly respected, and he will be particularly good for their young Latin players. So I'm with you, Scott. I still see a trade, but the other factor here, I wanted to mention this. So they're playing, obviously, to contend in 24 in a weak division, and they showed that they could do that last season with these guys just really coming to the big leagues. But they're really focused on 25 and beyond. So do you go trade for a one-year guy like Tyler Glasnow or Corbin Burns, not that he would go in the division? No, you don't do that. Maybe you do Dylan Cease, but not if it's going to cost you Marte, who you think maybe can be a star. So this is the spot they're in, and maybe the best solution here is for them to get one of the mid-level starters. I would say someone like a Giolito, just as an example. Giolito's going to cost money too, and maybe he'll be too rich for them, but that might be the way that they choose to go.
All right, on Fair Territory, you kind of gave us a glimpse into the Craig Counsell thing where you had heard something. You're not sure if I'm going to report it or not. I'm interested in how all of this stuff goes down in the sense of like you hear something and then you're like, well, I'm not going to go yet with it because ultimately I want to know what the next chip to fall is. What is the next rumbling that you're hearing, a signing, a trade, something final that is next down the line for us here?
Well, Eric, we're all waiting for Ohtani. That's the biggest one, of course. I don't have anything percolating in my head at this moment, and if I did, I would put it out there. So these things are reported in real time now better than they ever have been. It's a race to be first, and sometimes, to me, it's a little counterproductive. It's a race that you can win, but you're only going to win by 1 minute or two, and I kind of tend to get more satisfaction out of writing things or reporting things that have more staying power, so to speak. But at the same time, there's a lot of action right now, and a lot of us are making a lot of calls and sending out a lot of texts trying to figure out what's going on because it is so fascinating to fans, and it's fascinating to all of us who are involved in the game and covering the game and love the game. So it's a fun time of year. It wasn't so fun the first 3 days in Nashville, and I wrote a column about that, and some people got upset saying, Ken, we don't care if you're having fun. Guys, I'm doing the same thing regardless of whether stuff is happening or not. I'm still trying to chase stories and report. That wasn't the point of the column. The point of the column was baseball needs to get more like the other sports and get some kind of deadline or deadlines in place so you can spur action and you can create greater interest in the hot stove league, which is supposed to be something that drums up business. And I'm not going to lecture people about reader comprehension, but there are times I kind of feel like it. Read it again if you didn't get it the first time.
You're spot on, Ken. And let me tell you, some responses have pissed me off because even people saying like, it's not Ken's job to be the promoter of the sport. You're right. He covers the sport, but he can offer ideas for the sport. Like, it's ridiculous. You're allowed to be a columnist. You're not just I just have to report the trades. Like, if you've followed Ken for years, you know what's going on. So I'll add to that here because we're going to get into this later. Not sure if you saw, for example, J.J. Watt come out and say, hey, if we talk too much about ourselves, I'm paraphrasing here, then you don't like it. And now Ohtani's secrecy, you don't like it. So in my mind, he's in the NFL. Rodgers, Kelsey, etc. They breathe, they blink. It's a story. Baseball's not the NFL right now. And also, it's not like we have all of those cases of what he's talking about. We don't have the LeBron decision case. We've never had that. We don't even have, yesterday, Dylan Harper, who's like the top college basketball recruit, announces he's going to Rutgers and has a whole thing about it. And it was awesome. It was cool. So no one's expecting Ohtani to do that or say that. And tell me if I'm kind of misrepresenting you, but I think that there are things getting lost in translation here where people have to understand we're not criticizing Ohtani's timing. We're not criticizing even Ohtani's secrecy on his own end. My personal issue is him and or his camp telling teams you can't say shit and that becoming a story, even with the Dodgers having a little bit of internal discussions about what they're allowed to say. I think that's where we've gotten too far. What do you think?
From what I understand, Ohtani's camp basically told teams, we just prefer you to be discreet. I can't imagine that they actually threatened them and said, we're not going to take your money if you say something publicly. But the request was, be discreet. That's our preference. Don't say anything. Now, What Dave Roberts said the other day, he's our top priority. We met with him. We talked with him for 3 hours. It was good. How that can bother anybody in the Ohtani camp is beyond me. And the fact that the Dodgers got upset with Roberts, seemingly, the front office, it was absurd. And it has gone to a level of absurdity with the privacy that is just not necessary. It's not going to matter. People are not going to care once he signs. It really doesn't affect much at all. But I will say this. He's going to get a monster contract, a record contract. It's going to be $500 million, $600 million, whatever it's going to be. That person who gets that contract, and frankly, that person who already is a 2-time unanimous MVP, in my opinion, he has a responsibility to his sport to be out there, to not necessarily promote himself, but to be part of the mix. And look at other sports, like you just mentioned, some football players. You mentioned LeBron James. You can talk about him and what he brings to the NBA, Steph Curry. These guys recognize who they are within their sports. Now, I know Ohtani comes from Japan. It's a different culture. I get all that and respect it, of course. But at the same time, there is some of that. And fans who tell me just leave them alone, well, fans are getting shortchanged when players do not in any way interact and just kind of sit there. We just love them to perform. Yes, we love all that, but this is an entertainment industry. It's more than that. And my friend from The Athletic, Andy McCullough, put it really well. He's talked about this on his podcast. He said, listen, Ohtani's going to get this money not just because he can hit and because he can pitch. He's going to get this money because he's part of an $11 billion entertainment industry. Not all players have to be the same. They don't all have to be media hounds or whatever you want to call them. But there is a certain responsibility that comes with that stardom, with that status as a public figure. Simple as that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm with you, Ken. So we love baseball and we want it to be talked about. We want it to have lasting power and
that's
be popular
the whole point.
With the younger generation. Yeah. That's it. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate you. Looking forward to more action coming up. I mean, it's got to happen. Talk soon, all right?
Happen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ken. Good stuff. I wanted to get to that. So, and JayFish is going to join us in a sec, but just wanted to clarify there where people are, because there are just people on the attack right now. Let them do whatever they want. Okay, that's fine. Let Dave Roberts say whatever he wants. He's a grown man.
True. I agree. I agree with both sides.
Did you see what Dave Roberts said, by the way, Todd?
Not verbatim, no.
I'll tell you. He said, yeah, we met with him. He's a fine young man. He's great. He's our top priority.
That's simple. Nothing wrong with that.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
I think what they're trying to stay away from is the whole we'll put out there what I've said, what my requests are, I don't think the secrecy is, do not tell anybody that I talk to you.
But they didn't clarify that. They didn't clarify that because you have the Blue Jays playing CIA with the empty background for Atkins, and poor John Schneider shows up to the winter meetings and he's trying to dance around every question. So it did become a story. That's all. I'm just saying that it's called communication. Call back. Hey, I didn't mean that far. Just don't tell everyone that he wants, 4 sweets. Okay. Just, you can say that we met and we had a good time. That's cool.
Wait, are you saying that Ross Atkins didn't handle something in the media well? Wait a minute. Is this the first time?
First time, baby.
First timer.
Awkward.
I'm with you. So it's a good storyline. I know a lot of people in the chat right now talking about it and actually agreeing. So, by the way, and it is a good point. I don't remember who said it on the show, but if you're in LA, you're going to get a lot of spotlight on you with the paparazzi. That is true. They will follow you around. You are a global superstar. Something to keep in mind. I'm just saying for him, I think that's part of what his decision went into with not wanting to go to somewhere like New York. If you're in Hollywood, you're with the Dodgers, you're going to get attention. You're not hiding out. No, you go to the grocery store to pick up a bottle of champagne and, some chips and salsa.
Oh yeah, TMZ's coming right around the corner. How you doing?
What do you got? Yeah, they're
What do you
following you
get?
right to the
Oh,
freaking counter.
You're getting 6 pounds of chicken cutlets. You're getting a little gabagool. What are you getting over there? So
I would love if Todd's the TMZ guy. What are you getting?
Oh
a little
my
gabagool?
god! Yeah, oh man, fresh mutts.
All right, so here's the deal with the guest list because we still got 3 more to go. Mike Petriello is going to break down a lot of what we just went over with Soto, also how Soto fits in that ballpark and the defensive alignment, the other moves that were made over the past 24 hours. Jack Curry, who covers the Yanks in depth, one of Todd's dudes, going to join us for the first time on the show. Before that, let's get to our next guest right now. JayFish back at it with us for a little MLB Rivals action right now. And let's get into that with a little look at MLB Rivals now.
We all love the game.
The game. We all put in our blood,
sweat,
and tears.
We're all pushing for the same goal.
We all want to be the best.
We all want to be the best. The competition never ends.
And rivalries are made.
Start your rivalry
today in MLB 9 Inning Rivals.
Mr. MLB 9 Innings Rivals, JayFish joining us right now. Hey, before we dive into a few other things, I want to get your perspective here as a young super fan in the sport. So what do you think of the Shohei Ohtani mystery free agent case right now? Do you want more info? Do you feel like you're receiving enough? Do you feel like baseball is so different from basketball and football in the way that the biggest free agent signing maybe ever is being covered? Your thoughts?
I mean, I kind of like the secrecy to a certain standpoint because once it comes out, I feel like it's going to be maybe a big shock depending on where he goes. But I also do like knowing a little bit of information. You guys are talking about LeBron James. And so as a fan, I see both sides, and it really doesn't bother me, though, at the end of the day. I mean, it's going to be a shock whether we have any leaks or anything or not. So I saw Ken talking about how with him being from Japan, it's a different culture, too. So like he said, he respects that. I do, too. And we also got to take into account that it is a different culture. So obviously, guys here, LeBron James, born in the United States and everything, completely different standpoint when you look at it from that aspect.
Where would you like to see him go if you had a choice?
Okay, so I'm also a Dodgers fan. So LA, obviously, they're talking about him. I can tell you the one place I don't want him to go for sure is the Giants, with them being the divisional rival. So,
okay. Hey, we'll see what happens there.
All right, so JayFish, let's get into MLB 9 Innings Rivals for a sec. So what do you got for us in terms of some new additions?
Okay, so we got some new players, some retired players, including AJ, one of you guys' fellow hosts. He got added to the game. And then we got Guerrero Sr., we got Barry Larkin, Jeff Bagwell, and there's AJ. That's his best year, too. A pretty decent card. Not great power, but a well-rounded batter with some good fielding and stuff. So he's middle of the pack. He's middle of the pack. I've seen some really low overall cards, and he's up there. So I was actually looking at that when he got added about a month ago. So.
I see a lot of 70s in there, and what I know, C's, I guess they give you degrees, but not in baseball. So I mean, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, and then Jeff Bagwell, very good card right there. Obviously, I believe that's his best year. 72 overall, 310, 47 home runs. Houston Astros definitely. That's probably the best first baseman you can get. So.
A little more
Who else
power
you got
AJ.
from the former guys that you're pumped about? Larkin?
Yeah, I'm pumped about Larkin being a Reds fan. I don't have a Reds deck, but this card's very nice as well. He is in our other game of 9 innings as well. So obviously a great, well-rounded card right there. And then you guys have Guerrero. So our team that we have on the actual MLB 9 innings YouTube channel is a Nationals deck. So this is the card we're trying to get. There's other cards. We have impacts, primes, and then signatures. That's a signature. That's the best card you can get in the game. And we were trying to pull one of his impacts, and we couldn't pull him. And then in the stream this past Monday, we finally pulled him. It wasn't his best year, but I was just happy to finally pull him.
Nice.
That 0-2 card there. Can we go back to that 0-2 Vladdy card? If we can put it up there again. how many people? I mean, like how much better of a card can you get than this? I mean, you talked about the Bagwell first base card, but like you're talking about a 39-39 guy. He missed it by one homer.
No, he's one of the top tier cards. Like this is probably the best batter we can get as a Nationals deck. One of the best you're going to get in the game too.
Who would be higher? Would like a Scherzer or a Strasburg?
Yes, you could see pitchers get higher overalls than that. I think I can't remember who the highest is on the Nationals. I think it is Scherzer. I think he has like a 74, 75. Batters, you won't see them get that high normally just because of how the stats are distributed.
Right.
But that's one of the best batters you're going to get in the game right now.
Yeah.
All right, and let's finish with the current group. Checking out some of the free agents right now. We'll take a look. Like Bellinger's still on the market. Haven't heard much about Blake Snell yet. Obviously, it's not anything to do with interest. It's just waiting for someone like Yamamoto to sign first and then say, oh, market has been set. But there's Cody, who I think could end up back with the Chicago Cubs. I think the Giants will be going after Bellinger as well. But thoughts on some of the current guys that are available in the free agent market as we're looking at them here?
Well, I also saw that the Dodgers could be interested in a reunion with Bellinger, but I also saw that he's wanting up to $300 million, and I don't know if he's worth that. I know he got comeback player of the year and batted over 300, but I could see, I definitely see him probably going back to the Cubs. Don't want him to go to the Giants, obviously, like I said, being a Dodgers fan. I did want to mention on Soto. I mean, we got that trade last night, and my brother actually texted me about it. I was like, there's no way, and I looked it up, and I was like, I mean, that's probably the best outfield in the league. I think for them, obviously filling out their rotation and bullpen, pitching for the Yankees. And obviously the biggest thing for that is them not getting injured too. You have Stanton, Judge has gotten injured. I mean, so it's just, I think that's with any team, but that's going to be the biggest thing is injuries with that outfield.
Yeah, we haven't heard a lot about Strosho either. Obviously, during the season, we were talking a lot about, hey, should the Cubs trade these guys? They end up going for it, which I give them credit for, but they fall short. JayFish, appreciate you, man. Great to have you on. Enjoy the offseason. Obviously, we haven't had most of these players signed yet, so we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And check out MLB 9 Innings Rivals. Scan the QR code on the screen. Download the game. It is free. You can look at all the game features that are there. And for more information, we'll put a little action into our description in the pod and on YouTube. All right. Let's get back after it for a few minutes here on some of the trades and signings. So can I spend a minute, because we talked to Ken about this, on Jeimer Candelario? Let's get back to that for a sec, because we talked it out with Ken, but Todd Father, Cincinnati has had one of the lower payrolls this past season. In fact, when they signed Nick Martinez and Emilio Pagan, those two immediately became their two highest paid players. I think the third in line was Hunter Green. Now, obviously, Candelario takes the cake there, but I give them credit. They've spent $87 million so far this offseason. Time is now for Cincinnati, too. Like, they could have made the playoffs last year if they had a little more pitching depth. I'm going to reiterate what we talked about before. I am confused about the move. A trade helps to make more sense if that happens. So I'm trying to decide here one or two ways. Either they felt like the pitching market was going to be too expensive for them to play in, and they're going to go more after like kind of mid-tier, lower tier free agent pitchers or free agent starters, maybe one more, I guess. I mean, I really like the Nick Martinez signing, by the way. I think he's going to be great there. Ground ball guy, a lot of weak contact. I think it'll work there. I think he's an underrated guy that's going to be in their rotation. But do you think that this could mean, hey, we've got a surplus. Let's try and throw one or two of our younger guys over towards a Chicago to talk about Dylan Cease? I'm just trying to decide like what this means. Or did they say, we got to improve our roster, so let's go the other direction here because we can't find the pitching that we want. Like Ken mentioned, they went for Sonny Gray, they whiffed.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm confused too as well. One thing I do know, and I'm almost certain about this, that De La Cruz and McLean will be solidified in the middle there. And then where everybody else goes, it's going to be a crapshoot. So that's where I'm at here. I mean, you think about Steer, he's going to go to the outfield. I got this written down. India, he's going to be cruising around. I mean, he's not going to be the starter. You got De La Cruz, I talked about Encarnacion Strand, McLean, Marte, Arroyo. I mean, there's some young guys, and we talk about this a lot, how they're up and coming, and these guys have established, some of them already have established themselves. I mean, De La Cruz came out hot. He kind of fizzled a little bit at the end, but McLean really good. It's just maybe there's something else going on that really we don't know about, because there's that underlying things. There's business talks. There's, maybe they're trying to gear up because they have something else brewing, but this is not the typical Reds. I mean, kudos to them, though. The only thing I give them credit for is that they're signing guys and spending some money. Again, Nick Martinez is an awesome pickup. It's just out of the ordinary here why they would pick up another guy that you pay him $45 million. He's going to be starting somewhere. So first base, third base, we don't know.
Kratz, help me out here. So let's assume that they can't pull off a trade. There's only a few big starters on the market. And same thing, everyone wants him. They're not all going to get him. So let's assume that they don't necessarily get a starter in the trade market. And they do have a lot of young starting pitching that I like. That's like 1 or 2 years into the big leagues, right? Lodolo hopefully comes back healthy. Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott coming off a really strong year, fade a little down the stretch. You expect that often from a young rookie starter who didn't expect to be in a spot like that so quickly. Brandon Williamson. I still like Graham Ashcraft. So there's some depth there in terms of young guys. And 1 or 2 of them could start off in the minor leagues. But let's go over the position players right now. Tyler Stevenson, who's dealt with some concussion issues, fantastic catcher, kind of becoming one of the captains also of the team along with India. Luke Maile was signed as the backup there. So that's cool. I actually saw a couple people say Mitch Garver would have been a nice fit if you're looking for a little DH help and a guy who can be a third catcher for some extra starts. Okay. First base, Encarnacion Strand, you would think. I mean, he's one of the better prospects in the bigs. Matt McLean at second. Noelvi Marte and Ellie De La Cruz on the left side of your infield. So now you've got India, Steer, Fraley, Fairchild, Will Benson, and TJ Friedl for your outfield. And, oh, wait, I forgot someone. They just signed Jeimer Candelario. So what's the plan here?
I mean, unfortunately, I think this signifies the end for Encarnacion Strand. If he
Really?
is what I get it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's a weird fit for a team that has depth. Yes. If you run 6 deep in your infield plus another 1 or 2 in the bushes, I just have a tough time saying you're bringing in Jeimer to play first base, like a guy that hits 35 doubles. He's not played a ton of first base. What is to me, this has to be the prequel to a larger move. Whether that larger move means moving somebody else or solidifying that number one. Do I think Abbott pitched like a number one sometimes? Yes. Lodolo can if he's facing the Phillies. Everybody else, he just is, he's kind of bounced on and off the IL. He's still getting his feet wet, not that far out of college. It's something that if you go after Jordan Montgomery, you absolutely solidify this team, and then you trade for maybe one other starting pitcher piece. You don't have to go into the Dylan Cease waters. You don't have to go into the Glasnow waters, which I think $25 million is too much per year, although you're probably going to pay Monty $22 a year. So, and it's a longer contract. I just think that Jeimer gives you something that they're looking for that we don't see the Reds need at this time. Because you have Noelvi Marte, as much as everybody loves Ellie De La Cruz, is he going to stick at shortstop? Todd, you've seen him play. Is he going to be a shortstop? Or is all this hype around Marte, is he going to be the shortstop? And now you're wondering, is De La Cruz going to be okay at third base? And if he's not, I know this is going to hurt some people's feelings. You can send him down to AAA to continue to develop the things that he struggled with a little bit. And guess who plays third base? Jeimer Candelario.
Yeah. There's a lot to weigh. I mean, what they really want to do. I mean,
Yeah, I'm saying for 15 mil, I would have spent it differently with my, if you gave me the budget,
But
I
you
would have
can't-
spent it differently.
with his size of De La Cruz, I mean, that's a prototypical third baseman. And he's got one of the best arms in the big league. So, but he can get to balls. That's it. I love seeing him cut a ball off, throwing some guy out at home when he shouldn't even been thrown out. So, the Reds have some options of what they really want to do, but in spring training, when they do it, these kids are young. Like I remember when I was playing, they bounced me around different positions. And when they finally solidified a spot for me, I finally breathed a little bit and was like, all right, now I can chill out. I'm playing third base only. Let me worry about hitting now, not playing, 6, 7 other different positions. So
I don't think they have. I don't think they have what they think they have, or that the industry thinks, Scott Braun thinks they have in Elly De La Cruz. That's what this move shows me, that they're not like, ooh, Elly De La Cruz locked in. He is going to be the guy.
yeah,
Well, you said that about Encarnacion Strand too. You said, I think he's done. I mean,
Unless,
first of all, what does that mean? Like, you think they're trading him? And also, you can say you're trading someone, but for who? I mean, who you're trying to acquire? First of all, I don't like doing that. And I don't really believe in that for a team that is trying to keep payroll low. You have high upside players who cost nothing in MLB language. So why would you give them up when you have spots for them? If you have a surplus, I get it. But now they're creating a surplus. And I just keep thinking about Dylan Cease, guys. I think he is like the coveted free agent or starter on a team that's going to trade him, because Cincinnati and Baltimore are your perfect examples. They have so many young players. They're not going to play at the top of the free agent starting pitching market, even though the Reds did try. They missed out on Sonny Gray. Clearly, they didn't pay enough. So my thing is, Glass now, maybe Bieber's available. Those dudes are free agents after this coming season. I think teams like that are like, I don't want to give up my players for one season of a guy who actually also costs a good amount in our eyes. Dylan Cease is like the perfect, super high upside, number one starter. I know last year he kind of dipped to more of a 2 or 3 in terms of production, but he's a 1. I feel like he'll be fine. Look at 2022, change the scenery, the whole deal. And also, I mean, he's just going into his prime years. He costs less than $10 million. He has multiple years of control left. So in my mind, this is the guy. This is the talk of the offseason right now. I'm just trying to decipher if a team goes, oh, yeah, now I'm in a better position to give up an asset for him, or if they're like, they're asking for too much, so I got to figure something else out to make my team look better on paper. But I think he's the guy, Todd Father. There are multiple teams. I named 2 of them that are really hot after Dylan Cease in my mind because of what he brings to the table as a pitcher, and he's not expensive.
Yeah, get him. If they're going to start spending some money, let's go. If you're the Reds, all right, we're going to get $45 million up for this guy for Jeimer for 3 years. You got the money to spend. Now let's go. Show the Reds country that you're willing to spend some money on some pitching. Let's go out there and do it. I think that'll cheer up the fans out there in the Midwest. I think that'll be great. I don't see why not.
So who do you go get, Todd? You're a Reds fan or a Reds apologist, whichever the day is. Who do you go get? If you say, all right, hey, look, you're putting – I just think $15 million is not that much money. Yes, whether or not we think Jeimer is a good fit or not, it's not that much money to a team. And I think if you're $15 million in for, to solidify your depth, then what do you want as a Reds fan them to get as pitching? Who do you want them to get if you're spending money? Because don't forget, Dylan Cease is going to cost some cash. Dylan Cease is not going to be free the next 2 years.
No, he's so much cheaper than anyone else you could get at the top of a rotation, either on the market or even in the trade market, I'm saying. I mean, Dylan Cease and Tyler Glass now are in a similar category of guys that can be your number one starter in a playoff game, right?
Yeah, I think Cease is – I think they need one of those 3 guys to step up this year to be their number one starter. That's why I don't think the Reds are in, and that's why I asked this of Todd. I don't think the Reds –
they need some bullpen help too. That's another thing, in my opinion. I think they need them both.
Okay. Yep. But I'm saying
they started addressing that, which is fine. I just think that was where they needed to go.
I agree with you, Eric. It's not that much money, but it's just confusing. That's all.
But
It's
who do
very
you want
confusing.
them? Who do you want them to go pick up? Who of the Jordan
How about-
Montgomery? They're not going to get Yamamoto. They're not going to get Snell. I think they're probably even out on Montgomery. Eduardo Rodriguez, I thought would have been a good one, but they need to
That would've
look
been
at
great.
guys who don't give up fly balls, because fly balls in this, the Great American Small Park are gone.
Hey,
So who do they get?
Free agency wise, I don't know, but there's, let's talk about Bieber. How about trading in Cleveland? Mark, you bring up a good point, man. I mean, I'm still playing. The Reds have the offensive chips that they could trade away too as well for a guy like that. I think the Reds are better off doing trades than spending money, because that's what they've always done. And I think getting a guy like this will pretty much he would be like their top dog. He would be the number one.
But it's only one season. I feel like they have problems with that. The Yankees don't have a problem with acquiring a player for a season, and I give them a lot of credit for that. I think there are other teams that have problems with acquiring a player just for one season. I think Baltimore is going to be the same team like that. I'm telling you. That's why they're having a problem, because most of the free agent starters most of the starting pitchers that are available via trade market are going to be for one season besides Cease. I agree. Trust me. I think teams often are thinking way too far ahead, and then life passes you by and your winning window is over. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Teams load up. We talk about the White Sox all the time. Oh, they're going to be good for the next 5-6 years. Their winning window was like a season and a half. I think it could happen with Baltimore and Cincinnati. You have a young team. They're healthy. Things happen quickly. The Rangers got better quicker than most people anticipated them to be. And they said, hey, our winning window's right now. Screw it. We're done. We're acting as if we can win a World Series this year. And what happened? They won. The Mariners keep pressing. The Mariners keep pressing like, oh, we're still kind of projecting forward. And then all their free agents or all their young starting pitching is going to cost a lot by the time they decide that they actually want to spend money on the team and kind of push all of their chips in. That's the only problem I have with stuff like this. So anyway, because that's happening, I think that's why the starting pitching situation starts to get interesting. So one more here, and then we're going to have Mike Petriello join us, because we didn't get to comment on this either, and we got Ken's take. Eduardo Rodriguez, man, he got paid 4 years, $80 million. And for me, I like him because he eats innings. When he's pitched, obviously he had the off the field situation, which was a family issue. And there were reports that some teams kind of said, hey, we're not interested based on not knowing what's going on. Mike Hazen knows him for years. He was part of that Boston front office that brought him in from Baltimore when they made that trade with the Orioles to send them Andrew Miller, who was a big part of that bullpen for Baltimore. I don't think he's a 1 or a 2, though, Kratz. I would say he's a 3. And I try to do it this way. Does he pitch a playoff game for you? He doesn't. If he's pitching game 1 or 2 for me, I don't feel good. If he's pitching game 3, I feel okay, depending on the season that he's having. So that's how I look at it. But 4 years, $80 million. It could turn into 5 years, almost $100 million if he gives them the innings in the second half of that deal, and still gets the no trade clause. You know what? I'm more lukewarm on the deal. I like it. I think they definitely shelled out serious cash for Arizona. This is also not a team. They're a mid-tier team in terms of how they usually spend, right? Like this is as big as we've seen from them since Mad Bum. And I know they did Greinke back in the day too, but they've had some issues with looking at the free agent market and finding out who should be the best fit for them. I am all for Eduardo Rodriguez in the NL West, though. That means we get Diamondbacks versus Dodgers. Fuck yes.
The Dodgers are sitting there going, wait a minute, you will come almost all the way. He's 4 hours from LA. But
you don't like us, and I love that beef that's going to be created.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's real. It's real. You don't think it's real?
It's real, but I also think there was some family things too that he wanted to make sure he was close. The rumblings were that he wanted to make sure he was close to home down in Florida too. But to go out to Arizona and I'm excited. I'm excited to see his first start in LA. See if there's some booze. I don't.
Hell yeah, they're going to be booze, dude.
look at what the Dodgers could have done had he been on that roster. While you say he's not a 1 or a 2, they never got to game 3, so maybe they would have never gotten to Eduardo Rodriguez. But
True.
I think this signing, whether my opinion or not, I always test my signings by a barometer. And I think this is the middle tier. I think this is a guy that when he doesn't have off-field issues is on the field pitching. He is kind of like a horse. He's not the Maserati that you're driving super fast. He's the Suburban. He's coming out there. He's going to haul the family around every single day. He's going to be your number 3 starter. And the Diamondbacks don't need more than that. So my barometer set at Eduardo Rodriguez and Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Yamamoto are all right above there. So now if you drop below there, this is the barometer of where some of those trade pieces are. And, your Imanaga, your other starters that I think the Reds, the Orioles, and they've proven they could have had Eduardo Rodriguez. They're in this category. They're below this because Eduardo Rodriguez just comes out onto the field, pitches his game. Might be good, might be bad. He's not elite. He's just a guy that I think fits with the Diamondbacks really well, and good for them for spending essentially $20 million a year on a guy.
If you would have told me when he was with the Red Sox, when you and I were still playing, that he would be making this money, I would be like, wow, really? I thought he was good, but I didn't think he was going to be this good. And kudos to him for sticking to his guns, saying, hey, I don't want to go to L.A. He had off-the-field problems. I understand. We're talking with other people too. So it's like, all right. And I think LA and Arizona are 2 different beasts too. It's like the California vibe and the Arizona vibe. I understand that people might blow this up when they play, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
I hope it is.
Yeah, you do hope it is. You're turning into one of those. But either way, good for him. And I think it's a great signing. I think he will solidify that 3 spot and maybe 4 spot, if Flaut is going to be the pitcher we saw in the playoffs. So
Oof.
4 really good top tier starters right there, that are going to give you innings. And that's what you want in baseball. Your starters to go more innings. Thank you.
Yes. And one
So
of
you
those
don't
tools.
have a bullpen game in the World Series?
I don't want that.
No, don't need that in your life.
Just don't think so.
Ish don't think so.
No.
They had PTSD from that. Mike
And they
Hazen was
solidified
public
it here.
about that.
And they solidified it. They did PTSD from not having a right-handed power bat in their lineup. They solidified that. Diamondbacks, I mean, they're getting blown out of the water by the Yankees move right now, but they've had a great offseason so far. They have struck while the iron's hot. One of the things on Baseball Reference that I like to preface, I like to look at and be like, oh yeah, kind of similar pitchers through age 30. Here's some good names for Diamondbacks fans. Through age 30, you have Cliff Lee. You have Chris Carpenter. You have Michael Wacha. You have a Jared Washburn. But the one that always comes to mind, and he got kind of a similar contract, is Ian Kennedy. Ian Kennedy's on here, and those are guys that are all pictures of consistency. Eduardo Rodriguez is not Aaron Nola, throwing every single start since 2017. But that's why Aaron Nola got $70 more million than he did. So this is the price point that you're at, and he added to the Diamondbacks. He would help a lot of teams, but added to the Diamondbacks, it's a really good pickup.
I love Eugenio Suarez for them too. I mean, third base production was bad. It was a bad spot for them last year. And I love Longo, but he's obviously towards the end of the career. He might be out. Right. He's not 40 homers. And neither is Manuel Rivera. So this is a big upgrade in every way in my mind. Even just with what you're getting, if you just plug in last year's version of Eugenio Suarez, which is also still a great glove for them too, a big power bat, the one knock against him, and also great clubhouse. Talked to a ton of dudes about him. Like I think his thing is like good vibes only or whatever, and he brings that every day. Big fan of what he brings to the table. Oh, Cal Raleigh said it. So here's the one thing that I think could change, and I know it's difficult to do, and you guys help me out here, but he has openly said he's changing his approach next year. He's like, this was too much, the strikeouts. And clearly he sees it too. His team basically said, on a decent contract for him, not a crazy amount of money being paid his way, they said, man, we don't want you anymore. You strike out too much. And his approach was all out from first pitch all the way through 2 strikes, right? Kind of the opposite of what Cody Bellinger did this past season, where he significantly changed his game with 2 strikes. Do you think that a player like that who's been in the league for a while is actually able to make a change? And will it be for the better for someone like him? And if that is the case, I mean, the Diamondbacks made a great addition just now.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think he can make the change. I think it's something that is veteran hitters learn to be able to hit the more at-bats they get. And you're like, whatever. He's been in the game. He can't change. Tiger can't change his stripes, all that stuff. But I'm sitting here going, if he puts his mind to it, he can clearly make the adjustment to not strike out as much. And to me, only having 22 pumps last year, a guy that hits 40 plus going into Arizona where the ball's going to fly way better than in Seattle, I think just making more contact will equal more home runs. He's not just going to put the ball in play and, hope for the best. He's going to make more contact and do what he did in Cincinnati, because both parks play really well for right-handed hitters.
All right, so let's go over a lot of the moves over the past week. We can even include this one at some point, but we'll start with the headliner in Juan Soto. MLB.com's Mike Petriello joining us right now, former colleague of mine and friend of mine. And Mike, I'll say, we show your tweets pretty often on the show too, when we're kind of giving some perspective on signings and trades. I know you're breaking all of those down. Every single major move that happens, trade or signing. So great to see you. First off, obviously we got to start here right away. Are you in a tanning booth? Like, what do we got going on here? Very futuristic setting.
Have you never been here, Scott? This is like
I have, but did it get remodeled?
Well, no, I'm not in Secaucus. I'm in Midtown at the new.
I have not. I've not been in. I thought maybe Chelsea. I did Chelsea.
No, we don't do Chelsea anymore.
You're
Chelsea's gone. It's all Midtown now. We're across from Radio City. Come by sometime.
Okay, I will. I will. If the invite is there, careful. I'm in.
He will.
Yeah.
Be careful. He'll be there. He might borrow your car too.
So, Mike, let's get right
might
into
eat
Soto.
Your lunch as well.
He won't do that.
I'll buy lunch. Let's get into Soto. So, thoughts on the trade for both sides, and also thoughts on what Juan Soto is going to bring to the Yankees in that ballpark and in that lineup.
Well, I mean, how could you be a Yankee fan, which I'm not, even though I'm from New Jersey, and not be thrilled by this, right? I mean, you're getting one of the all-time greatest hitters at his age. And I know people get sick of the hyperbole, right? We keep comparing him to Ted Williams. And the reason we do that is because it's true. If you look at his Baseball Reference comparables through age 24, the 2 top names, Bryce Harper and Frank Robinson, right? Like, Juan Soto is that good. And if you look at the Yankee outfield last year, the team as a whole, right, had an OPS similar to that of the Royals. And no disrespect to the Royals, but that's not the offense you want to emulate, especially if you're the New York Yankees. And it's not like they didn't give up talent, because they did. I like Michael King. I like Drew Thorpe. But you're not going to get access to a guy like Juan Soto if you don't give up some good players. And they did it in a market where you can find new pitchers, right? They're absolutely going to go out and sign new starting pitchers. They're going to get more out of Rodon. They're going to get more out of Cortez. I absolutely love this fit. Like, if you're a fan of any of the other 29 teams, you should be furious. And if that's the case, I think the Yankees did a pretty good job.
Are they now the favorites in the AL East because of this move?
I just joked about this on a podcast. I'm not sure I'd put them above 4th place right now, as disrespectful as that sounds. I mean, listen, The Rays and the Orioles, that's the class of the East, absolutely. The Blue Jays, you could kind of go either way, right? I think we know both teams will make another move. Maybe for the Jays, it's Shohei Ohtani. The Yankees will definitely get a starting pitcher. We don't know who the final rosters are going to be right this second. But no, they're not the favorites. And the reason they can't be the favorites is because, as great as Juan Soto is, this team was straight up bad last year. It's going to take more than Juan Soto to turn things around. But I love the aggressiveness. You've got Garrett Cole's 33. Aaron Judge is going to be 32. I know people get angsty that Soto is entering his walk year. I don't care. Even if you only get him for 1 year, this year is very important with those two guys getting towards the end of their prime.
I know people like to bring up the age, 32, 33. So, I mean, some people have some of their best careers at that age as well. I know baseball's trying to steer in the direction of not having the guys in the 30s play. They want to make it young again. But with this team healthy, How can you not see right now that there might be one of the top guys in the AL East if they're all healthy and ready to go?
Well, I think that's right, but I think the word "if" is doing like a whole lot of work there, right? Like I like Carlos Rodon a lot. He does not exactly have a great track record of health. He's had a very up and down career. Insanely good when he's great. Health has been an issue. Cortez is coming off arm issues, right? It's hard to look at those guys, and especially Stanton, where even the GM of the team is expecting him to get injured, and say, well, these guys are all going to be healthy because it's an older team. You've got DJ LeMahieu, who's not a young player anymore. He's had some injuries. Even the young guys, Jason Dominguez is out with a major injury. Anthony Rizzo missed a lot of time last year with injuries. So there's a lot of talent there, no doubt about that. There's a lot of big names, but I'm not sure that there's a ton of guys I look at on the team and say, I'm very confident that they will be both healthy and productive, right? Maybe Soto. Soto might be the only guy I would say that about right now.
So, Mike, let's assume that Soto, like last season, plays a full season, right? 160 plus. How many homers? Can you set a mark for us of what you'd project? I mean, Mr. Statcast as well. What are we thinking about Yankee Stadium? And there are many casual fans that are like, right field, it's over. He's hitting 55.
32. That's where I'm going. And I know that's going to shock people because it's fewer than he just had. But you look at the kind of hitter he is, right? He's an elite all fields hitter. He's not this dead pull hitter kind of guy. You look at when he put the ball in the air last year, line drives and fly balls, 25% pull rate. He loves to go opposite field. He loves to go the left field power alley, which I think is something that people love about him. He's hard to defend against. And I think what's going to happen is he's not going to gain a ton from the short porch in right field. And some of those balls that flew out last year to left center aren't going to get out in Yankee Stadium because left field is big. I want to make it clear. It doesn't mean I think it's a bad fit. I think he's going to do great there. I think he's going to do wonderful there. But it's not a great park to hit in for lefties. I know that sounds nuts because of the short porch, but because the right field is so small, right fielders play shallower there against lefties than anywhere else. It's the hardest park in baseball for lefties to hit doubles and triples in. So you get the home runs, sure, but there's a cost to it. And so I think he's going to do great. I don't see 45, 50, 55 home runs just because he moved to the Bronx like everybody wants.
Thank you so much. I've been preaching this forever. Unless you're a Anthony Rizzo type of on the dish pull, he's the guy that's going to get some home runs down the line. But even a monster like that, when you hit it down the line, Todd can tell you, it's going deep sauce. You don't need it short. So to me, where is he going to improve moving from the star-studded lineup of Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, and, Juan was sitting right in there, Fernando Tatis, to now to the Yankees? Is Juan just going to have another, 158 OPS plus type of season?
I kind of think so. And that's only because he's been so good. It almost feels unfair to ask for him to improve, as though we haven't already seen elite level performance year in and year out. You look at what he did last year, just in terms of OPS plus. Do you know how long it's been since the Yankees had a left-handed outfielder perform like he did? Bobby Mercer back in 1972. That's how long it's been since they've had a full season. I know Paul O'Neill had the 94 lefty outfielder do this. So to ask for more from him at this point seems a little bit unfair. I think he might get a little more in counting stats, just because the Padres last year, as everyone knows, had the real weird runners in scoring position stuff. And I don't really think that was meaningful. I think it was just baseball being baseball, but it happened. And I think you're going to see, for him, an increase in runs scored, maybe runs driven in. I actually think, depending on how they do the lineup, I don't know what it's going to be, but let's assume Soto and Judge are hitting in the top three, right? Whoever hits fourth, maybe that's Rizzo, is going to have one of those years where he's like an average hitter and gets like 120 RBIs because you got those guys in front of him all the time.
So, Mike, let's go over some other moves that you've broken down lately. Let's start with the past 24 hours, and I'll kind of give you dealer's choice. Eduardo Rodriguez, Jeimer Candelario, your thoughts?
I loved the Rodriguez fit. I mean, there's maybe not a better fit of player and team. You look at what the Diamondbacks did when they ran to the World Series last year, right? Zach Allen and Merrill Kelly were their two most reliable starters. Now think about this. They're both very good, right? Zach Gallen threw like 240 combined innings last year. There is a cost to that, and he had to go a month deeper into the postseason than guys who didn't make there. There's going to be a cost to that coming into next year. I think you're going to see effects of that. Kelly was very good. He's 35 years old, And then you had Brandon Pfaadt, who had a 5.72 ERA, which is a little misleading. We all know he made improvements down the stretch, and that's great. I like him quite a bit. They could not cobble together a starting rotation. How do you end up with openers in the LCS and the World Series? It's not some galaxy brain new age way of thinking. It's because they literally did not have starting pitchers to use. There was no one they could have used there because guys like Madison Bumgarner weren't there anymore. So he's going to move the needle, I think, in Arizona a lot more than he would in a place that had a very deep starting rotation, because the urgency there was so important. And I gained a lot of respect for the team, I think, because you have the out of nowhere World Series run. They could have very easily said, great, found money, we're gold. No one's going to question us now. And they didn't. They didn't sit on their laurels. They're like, we have a good young lineup. We don't have enough starting pitching. We're going to go out and get a very good one for what I have to say was a shockingly reasonable cost. I thought he'd get more than that. And that he didn't, I can't imagine makes Jordan Montgomery very happy.
You talk about starting pitching. I want to go to Yamamoto. I feel like this guy is, if Shohei is still not going to sign here soon, he's the next big thing coming. Have you heard anything about teams making move? We know about the bunch of teams that want him, but is there any team that's a little higher than others right now? I mean, I think about the Yankees and all the prestigious Japanese pitchers they have. Do they have the upper hand right here?
I don't know if I'd say the upper hand. I know everybody wants to go Yamamoto, right? And I totally get why. But I'm struggling to remember the last time we had a real New York bidding war in this sense, right? Because we know the Yankees want him. We know the Mets want him. And I think the Mets are a little more desperate because they haven't really done anything yet, whereas the Yankees obviously have. But it's not just those two. It's if you think of the, let's say, 6 or so quote unquote jewel franchises, the biggest spenders, the biggest markets, right? Dodgers, Giants, Cubs, the New York teams, the Red Sox. I think all of those teams want to be on him and a couple more. And so I think he is going to get that market pushed up, I don't know, 250 million more, closer to 300 million. Because I think what people maybe underestimate about him is it's not just the skill. The skill is obvious, right? It's very effective pitcher. It's the youth. He's going to be 25 years old. So you could go give him a 10-year contract and it only goes up to 35, which is not unreasonable. It's hugely different than giving a 31-year-old a 10-year contract where the back end's going to age poorly. I think people are going to be absolutely stunned by how much he gets. And I sort of think that if the Mets decide that they're going to give it to him, nobody's going to top them.
So let's go to the trade market. What do you think of Tyler Glasnow, Dylan Cease, maybe Corbin Burns, and Shane Bieber, and what they could look like next season for a contending ball club? And we were just kicking around earlier how you've got one guy who's around for multiple seasons. I think that's going to factor into a lot for some of those teams that don't spend at the top of the market, right? I keep mentioning Baltimore and Cincinnati, but I know you're good at projecting forward too, in terms of like, I guess we could start this way too. Can you rank them for us in terms of who you like?
Well, I think I like Glasnow the most for one season. I know he's had injury issues, but the skill is obvious. He came back last year and he looked great. I'm a little concerned about Bieber just because the velocity and the strikeout rate had been trending down. And then obviously he missed time with an arm injury last year. This isn't really a ranking. Let's say Glasnow 1, Bieber 3, Cease 2. I like Cease a lot if he gets out of Chicago and goes to another place. But I'm mostly interested to see what happens when we see where Yamamoto goes, right? Because you're going to have 4 or 5 huge market teams that need pitching that didn't get him. So let's hypothetically say the Dodgers don't get Yamamoto, right? They're going to go tear up the pitching market. They might get 2 of the guys we just talked about and then also go sign Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell. I think any of these teams that have pitchers to trade are probably waiting not for Ohtani, but I think they're waiting for Yamamoto because that's what's really going to define the rest of the pitching market.
Who needs Tyler Glasnow more, the Reds or the Orioles?
Wow, that is a wonderful question. I mean, the answer is going to be the Reds, just because I don't think the Rays would trade him to Baltimore in the division, right?
Fair.
But as far as who needs the pitching more, I guess the Reds also, because I like the top of the Baltimore rotation. I like Kyle Bradish. I like Grayson Rodriguez. They need more depth, yes, but those are 2 guys I would feel comfortable with starting a playoff game for me. I'm not sure the Reds have anybody I feel comfortable with starting a playoff game for me. No disrespect intended. I like Hunter Green. I like Andrew Abbott. But they're young. They haven't really proven as much as the young Baltimore guys do. I didn't even mention John Means over there in Baltimore as well. So I really do think that it's a better fit for the Reds, both in need and the likelihood they could even get him. Because, again, I don't think they would send him to Baltimore.
So are you like me and confused? Sorry, Kratz, about the Candelario signing?
I was confused at first, but less so the more I thought about it, because you look at all of their young players, right? None of them are that proven. Even Ellie De La Cruz, we all love him, didn't end up having a productive season. Is it that out of the question he ends up back in the minors a little bit next year? I don't think so. You got Spencer Steer, who hit very well, but is probably not a defensive fit in the infield. He's an outfielder for me, a DH, a trade candidate, maybe. And now you've got a better chance of trading Jonathan India, which I think they'll do. So it kind of came down to me, like, was I confused at first? Yes. But at the end of the day, is he a good player? And do you want good players? Sure. Is it ever a problem to have too many good players? Never. It always sorts itself out.
If it takes away from getting other good players that they needed more needs of. But I said it earlier in the show. I said, because Scott Braun loves Ellie De La Cruz. He is blinded by his talent, and you need more look at what he's actually done, his actual production. And that's why I was going to kick back what you said about the Reds needing it. Whether or not the Orioles can get Glass now, I get that part. But the Reds' top three could be better than the Orioles' top three of young pitching. Because I don't know who the third Orioles' top three are. Lodolo can be really awesome. I know I need to see another step from him because he's a 10 strikeout guy a game. Hunter Green could be really awesome. I get it. And Andrew Abbott showed he's really awesome. Besides, he faded down the stretch, which I think young pitchers do. The Orioles, it stops after Bradish, who I think is better than all three, and Grayson, who he came up partway through the year last year. But who's their third?
Give me John Means. I love John Means.
Absolutely. I'm talking about young guys. John Means is like, he's the pickup. He is the Eduardo Rodriguez for their organization. Like he's not a young guy. He's kind of their veteran.
30 though. He's not 38 years old, and he doesn't have as many innings on him. So
he's not. But he's not part of that. He's not what Andrew Abbott could be.
Sure. Tyler Wells was good. I mean, he kind of ran out of steam. I mean, my thing also, just to blend in the Reds combo still here too, is we're talking about these guys that have promise. I agree. I like some of them and the ceiling that they have, like Green and like Lodolo. But I mean, Mike, it's about making the playoffs. You tank, rebuild, whatever for years. And then you get to a point here this past season where if they added a pitcher, they probably would have made the postseason, And I know there weren't a ton available, but there are a lot of teams kicking themselves that they didn't go after someone like Jordan Montgomery because at the very least, the floor was you're going to get reliable mid-rotation innings. And then it became really like number one starter production from him for the rest of the season. So my thing is, are we going to have this again with Cincinnati where we're like, cool, it was nice that they kind of improved their bottom line, but either A, they missed the playoffs, or if they get there, we're like, who do we feel good about in their rotation? Oh, they should have done something else.
Yes, I kind of do feel that way. I think we all know they're not going to be in on the big ticket guys.
Yes.
They're not getting Snell. They're not getting Yamamoto. Could they trade some infielders for a Cease? Yes, sure. But they're not going to be the only team in on that. And if Dylan Cease is your ace, I like Dylan Cease a lot, but he's probably not the ace of a playoff team after last year until he proves otherwise. So I do think there's going to be a big disconnect between how good we want the Reds to be and how good I actually project them to be until we see a lot of improvement in their starting pitching.
Yep. Couldn't agree
more. Who's your favorite free agent? And keep the money relative. So obviously just saying like Ohtani or Yamamoto, we'll wipe them off the board. Like bargain, underrated guy that you would sign and target no matter what team you are. Is there a guy that you're looking at and saying, I really like the season they had and I project forward and think it's going to get better?
Well, I'll answer that in two ways, right? One guy who I didn't like his season, but I still believe in him is Tyler O'Neill. I guess he's not a free agent, so I'll take that back. He's a trade guy, but he's someone you can acquire. The Cardinals clearly want to be rid of him. I'm a huge fan of his defense. I think the power's still there. Enormous change of scenery guy for me. So I'm a big fan of his. You look at the free agent market, I know he's not going to hit much, but I will give you the argument that Kevin Kiermaier is one of the greatest defensive center fielders in the history of the entire game. And I know he's getting older. I don't think he's lost a step. You can get him for 2 years. He will catch everything in center field and hit enough. I think he's going to be a really big bargain at the bottom of somebody's lineup.
Okay, and let's finish with this. I've got two infielders for you to get your thoughts on, and very different hitting profiles or just profiles in general in terms of their positions and everything else. But they're infielders. One is kind of shortstop, second base. One's one of the better third basemen. All right. So Tim Anderson is a free agent. Matt Chapman is a free agent who will get talked about a lot more coming soon. What do you see for them going forward in terms of what their seasons could look like and what you just saw from 2023?
Tim Anderson, I see on a 1-year prove-it deal to play second base. Shortstop, the defensive metrics have never loved him there. And he's voiced, as far as I'm aware, an openness and a willingness to play second base. I think we saw him do it a little bit in the WBC. I think he could be really, really good there. I don't know what happened with the bat last year. I don't think anybody does. I think we all agree there's more in there than we saw last year. So to put him on a place, I don't know, Red Sox, Miami, somewhere that needs an infielder for a 1-year prove-it deal, I think you could get pretty good value out of that. Matt Chapman, I have no idea what to make out of Matt Chapman. I really don't. He's gonna do well, right? He's by far the best third baseman. The glove, I think, is more very good than elite. I think we've started to see like a soft decline there. And then the bat, he had a monster April, best month of his entire career. And then he had 2 of the worst months of his career after that. He had like 280 on base for 5 months. What do you do with that? I have no idea. Between him and Bellinger, I'm not sure which free agent I'm happier I don't have to make these calls on because I don't know what to make of either of them right now.
Well, you're the Giants. You need to find a star. And that is what they're looking for. Who is the star that's out there that if you were the Giants, you're going after?
Bellinger, probably, because I don't think they're going to get Yamamoto. I don't think they're going to get Ohtani. They need a center fielder. They're running out of options. Who's it going to be? Is Chapman that star? I'm not sure that he is. I don't think they're going to sign Blake Snell. I think when they don't get any of the big stars again, it's going to have to be Cody Bellinger.
You said you were basically just talking out of both sides of your mouth. Like you were like,
yeah,
I don't know that I'm getting Cody Bellinger. Yeah. Like, is that hurt
absolutely
to say
true?
That? Is he the star? Is he the one that'll turn the Giants org around?
No, but I don't think that guy exists. And I think that's the problem right now. You can only go with the guys who are available. If Yamamoto, yes, right? I don't think they're going to get Yamamoto. Aside from him, who is that guy? I don't think they get Ohtani. That guy may not exist, and that's the sad truth of it.
And they desperately need to do something. And that's even from a business perspective, in addition to what's on the field, right? Like there were a lot of complaints from fans. And I'll be included in this one because I watch plenty of late night games. Like the brand of baseball the Giants were playing, especially when it's not elite, like you're just like, it's not enjoyable to watch. I know that's their style. It's foreign style to platoon and mess around with the pitching staff. On Bellinger, though, Mike, I'm curious because I know Chapman's peripherals and hard hit are off the charts, and Bellinger's were pretty far down the list. Do you buy, because these guys talked about it, and I thought they provided really good perspective, do you buy the difference in two-strike approach hurting peripherals for him? Because I think all of that did factor into how the Yankees evaluated him, because for a while people were like, oh, Yanks for Bellinger, and I think their front office, it was reported, had back and forth and decided we don't want him.
Yeah, Scott, I'm going to answer this one, and then I got to run. But I think the Bellinger thing scares me because I did look into this. I do think he has a two-strike approach. Like, good, wonderful. I wish more players did that. But when you look at every part of his game before 2 strikes, it didn't stand out as much. It's not just that the 2-strike approach hurt his exit velocity and all that, because he wasn't really doing it before 2 strikes. So to believe that he's the guy you saw this year, you basically have to believe he's Luis Ariz with 2 strikes. And I don't believe that. I think the one mistake fans are making is that if he can't be the guy in 2023, then he's the guy from 2022 who got non-tendered. I don't think that's right either. I think he's somewhere in between. Basically, I think he's a 10% above average hitter, not a 35% above average hitter as we saw this year.
Wow. Okay. Good call. Mike, appreciate you, man. Go get after it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Mike Petriello, you can check out his work on MLB.com, his articles. We'll post his Twitter account as we usually do with all the clips coming through. So that was good perspective, though. I mean, I think Bellinger's been tough for some front offices on the number side to buy into for a long-term, massive contract. No?
Oh, for sure. I agree. I mean, I don't know that, but somebody has to make the splash for him to be the impact guy. Like, what are you getting? Like, just in 2022, he was not that good. But yet we are, when somebody has a bad 2023 season, like, well, this is who he is. But now he had a great one. Look at Jeimer Candelario. Like, the guy was non-tendered and signed a 1-year deal with the Nats. And he proved it. He did well. He wasn't elite, but he did well. So why is Cody Bellinger? Because he's a previous MVP? Is that what you're paying for? Mike was spot on with a lot of stuff, and I think there's a little bit of trepidation from teams on Cody.
Yeah, I agree. And my thing is, I want to point this out too. I think there's just a lot of variance over his career with his offense. I feel great about him as an athlete. He's a great defender. He can play above average to elite defense in the infield and the outfield, right? At first and in the outfield. And he can run the bases. The problem is the offensive profile is all over the place. And some of it for me also, aside from numbers, Kratz, we talked about this, is just eye test too, right? The swing has gone through many changes, and some guys can just keep the consistency going. And for him, I think there's more inconsistency that can happen over the length of a season for him versus getting in a rut and getting out of it. We've seen him get into a rut and it lasts for a while. We also saw last year him get hot and it lasts for a while. So I like him. It's just that in a different offseason, I think his number would be more reasonable because there's nobody at that level of production from this past season available on the free agent market. That's when it starts to go into like, is this a $200+ million player right now? And that's where I think a lot of teams were like, not for me right now. I can't trust that. So San Francisco might get desperate though, because what the hell are they doing if they miss out on the next couple guys? The one thing that's been consistent, Giants fans in our YouTube chat section saying, what the heck? What are we doing?
But the Giants, what do you think his war was? His defensive war last year was for Cody? Like, take a guess, because the year he won the Gold Glove. I'm not a huge
D WAR guy. I'm an outs above average, but
okay. But his Gold Glove year, it was 1.6. So he was a Gold Glove winner. Since then, he went 0.4, negative 0.2, 0.5 last year, 0.1. So like his elite defense is hanging on a shelf. Are you getting that when you sign him to a 6 to 7 year deal?
His StatCast numbers this past season, outs above average was a 5. That's 87th percentile. So that's pretty much elite. The arm strength was in the about average range, or the arm value. Sorry, the arm strength was pretty good too, 86th percentile. So
you guys are talking numbers. Is he a ball player to me? And I think he is that guy. I think the change of scenery helped him, and I think he could help any team that's looking for a stud left-handed hitter with a really good arm in the outfield. So
I agree.
Todd,
I like him, but do you like him? You know, if you're the Giants, is that your big guy that you're building around for, $225 million?
Interesting.
Hey, if I tell you, 5 years, 100, hell yeah, sign me up.
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. No, that's it. That's it.
Right 8 years, 225.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's the disconnect right now.
Yeah,
I have him for 6, 162.
Who's his agent?
Boris, baby.
Well, that's going to be tough.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, he's not budging. So
see you in February.
It's one of those things where, the stuff I've been a part with, like, do you take a little less just because, you're fighting back and forth? Because I know Boris, he wants the most for his guys, and just like any other agent, but at the same time, there's got to be a point as a player where it's like, you know what? They're not giving me the 185. Just give me the 170 or give me the 150, whatever it is. That's life-changing money. So we'll see as it gets closer to spring training.
Justin said I predict 8 years, 200 for Belly. I had him at 7, 175, just based on market. I'm making predictions based on what I think the player will actually get. Mm-hmm. So in terms of teams, though, I think it's really Cubs, Giants. I don't think the Blue Jays are in the Ohtani budget or bust. It's Cubs Giants. I have a hard time finding anyone else that's going to play at that level. I went team by team. So
Yep, agreed.
We'll see. But it's a good case. There are some really good free agent cases that I think there's been a lot of debate behind the scenes with front offices about. So we're about to bring in Jack Curry to give us much more as we're kind of going to reset on the state of the Yankees from the Juan Soto deal and obviously what's next for this team. And we can even ask him at some point. I'd be curious to see what his thoughts are because the Yanks at one point were talked about a lot for Cody Bellinger. And I'm sure there was that debate going on like we read about. So we'll get to that in just a sec with Jack. And also in Slap Hands, we've been trying to do this. I'll try and get to one or two questions. So if you're in the YouTube chat right now and you have a question for us about the free agent frenzy, let us know. We'll get to a couple of those questions. And obviously, if you have questions for Jack too, we can get to that as well. But just for everyone to know, there's still like probably 35 out of the top 40 free agents unsigned. Think about that. I mean, Kratz always says, you know what it's good for, Todd? It's good for the FT business. We got shit to talk about. I mean, there hasn't been that much yet compared to what you usually have at this point in the season. You know, people joking like, "Oh, they should have moved the winter meetings back." Who the hell knows? You can't time anything out, and you start getting close to Christmas time when things usually do slow down. I think you're going to look at that Christmas week because some teams, none of them are great with it, as far as I know, but some teams do, hit the brakes a little bit with some of their people behind the scenes, which I think is important, obviously, because it's a sport that basically never takes a break. So I think that you are going to see, as soon as Ohtani signs, a flurry between now and Christmas. And once Christmas hits and you have that week from Christmas to New Year's, it'll start to snooze a little bit and then it'll pick back up again.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
You never know. I mean, listen, every year is different, but yeah, it is usually a lull. This year, it seems like when the big dog goes, I got a feeling it's going to be like, here we go. I'll take this guy. No, you don't want, you know what I mean? That's what I feel is going to happen. Check him out, try him out, 1-win choice. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I think it's the Dodgers part specifically. That's my thing too with Ohtani, because I think, like I mentioned, the Blue Jays aren't going to be.
I don't want to see him going to the West. I don't want it.
I'm just saying that the holdup is LA and Ohtani, because if the Dodgers don't get Shohei, they're going to go off, right? Suddenly they're one of the top contenders for Yamamoto. They're looking at multiple pitchers. Like they're going to spend regardless this offseason if the upset occurs and he goes elsewhere.
Well, what happens if Yamamoto signs tomorrow?
He won't.
How do you know?
Because he is less secretive than Shohei, and he's okay with people knowing the meetings. So he is meeting with the Yankees on Monday. He's coming over to the States. Maybe he has a couple other meetings. So I think it could happen soon, but I do think Ohtani is first and then Yamamoto.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna turn down a meeting with the Yanks? What do you think that meeting is going to be like on Monday with the Yanks? I mean, if it's anything like the food they serve at the ballpark to the fans or to the players, Yamamoto is going to have a freaking day. You better get a strong workout in the morning. They are going to feed you. They are going to give you some of the best food you've ever had in your life, at least in America.
Listen, Kratzy's getting ornery now. You just brought up food. He's starving. And now you bring up Yankee Stadium food, which is really good. I'm actually really hungry too. But yeah, dude, they're gonna give him the platter. Here you go, dude. Talk to me. What do you want? Let's work around it. Let's go forward. I think this would be a monster pickup for the Yankees if they can get him. You think about the guys. I've said this before. I've said it so many times that the Yankees have had that are from Japan, that are Japanese descent. Man, it's only fitting that he comes here, and I'm sure Masahiro Tanaka has said something to him. I don't know that for sure, but I'm sure he's brought up and talked to him and said, "Hey, listen, what do you got for me?" And he's given him the spiel about how good it is to be a Yankee and how proud and how you come to ballpark every day, and you are going to be praised. So this is going to be a big meeting on Monday.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so I got another superstar conversation to get into. Bryce Harper is in the headlines Okay. Or at least his agent is putting him in the headlines right now. So let's do a little hot corner conversation. According to Scott Boras, the rep for Bryce, he wants to discuss a contract extension to stay with the Phillies for the rest of his career. Bryce is currently signed through the 2031 season. 2031.
7 years, right? 8 years
It's
more?
8 more seasons.
2023. Eight more
more
seasons?
How old is he right now?
30.
He's in his 30s.
31.
31. So he signed through, I believe he signed through his age 38 season, and he would be a free agent again at 39 years old.
Let me ask you this. How many more years does he want? Well, how many more years does he want after that? I don't know. Call me crazy, man. When I'm 38, sounds good to me. It's time to hang him up. I don't know.
If you're a superstar, Todd, and you signed for 13 years, 330, and you're living up to that contract in baseball terms, right?
Sure.
And then you're seeing the way that contracts are looking since then, which really, I guess you look at this offseason and go, hey, Shohei Ohtani, who is one of the faces of the sport, at least in terms of what he does on the field for sure, right? International superstar, is going to sign for $500 to $600 million. Do you think and this is a true story, ownership, right? I don't know if it was Middleton or one of the other guys, right? Went up to him at one point, what was it, 2 years ago? And they were like, man, you were a bargain. Do you think that's what causes this a little bit, where you're like, hey, I'm making you so much money and I was signed for under market value. I know I have a ton of time left. My only thing I can think of here is, hey, we do that like Albert Pujols personal services deal that he had signed. Remember that with the Angels for like another 10 years? I don't know what ended up happening with that, because obviously they ended up not getting along. I don't know if there was a settlement or what the deal is there. But that's what I would look at. It'd be like, hey, listen, you still got 1 billion years left, but can I offer you this, Top Father? You're a superstar, you're Harper. You still got 8 years left to play for us. We'll talk when it gets closer in terms of on the field, but off the field, as soon as you retire, we sign one of those. We already signed it now that you're going to be a part of the Philly franchise and do the appearances and the whole thing, and we're going to pay it at the top scale.
No, I think, hey, no, listen, and I'm not saying that to be, vicious or anything. I truly believe he wants to play past 39 when he's a free agent. But I think about Joey Votto, like, he teetered off a little bit as he got older, and, he got injured. He struggled a little bit, and, it's just one of those things where around that time, I think, the pitching has gotten better. Everything else, I'm not saying he's going to do bad, but if it was me, I'd be like, all right. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something they got going here. I just don't know where it's coming from. I just signed through 2030. I mean, that would. Oof. How many more years does he want, Scott? That's where I'm confused at. We don't know that.
You're asking Braun or Boris?
I'm asking Scooter Braun. Kratzy, maybe you know. How many more years?
Help
does he
me
want?
out here, Mr. Philly. What do you make of this
Why
story?
does he always do that? He calls me Mr. Yankee, you Mr. Philly. That's so funny.
Is this a story though? Like,
no.
When I say this, when the agent says that, do you feel like Philly has to respond to this? Do you feel like there is a real conversation where they're like, hey, listen, we want to tack more years on. He's been a bargain for you. Or is it just kind of a cute public call out to say that they're getting every penny worth of that deal right now with an icon in Philly?
Well, what was Boris doing? Boris had his own scrum. When you give Boris a scrum, sometimes it's diarrhea of the mouth. And who does Boris work for? Bryce Harper. He works for the player. He also works for the 60 other players that are going to come behind Bryce Harper.
Good call, bro.
He knows he got Bryce Harper a contract that was less AAV than he's probably worth. But what did they want to go after? Who had a $329 million deal? Giancarlo Stanton was $325. what did Bryce Harper and Boris at the moment in 2019 when they signed him, what did they want? The largest contract ever. And they were okay giving away the AAV. Now, Aaron Judge has signed. Yamamoto's going to sign. Garrett Cole has signed. DeGrom has signed. Scherzer has signed. Since all of these, and they're all getting 40 plus million, 36 plus million a year. And he's like, a couple months later, Trout signed an extension. Now all of a sudden, Scott Boras has to do what? He has to work for his client. I don't think this is Bryce Harper. I don't think Bryce is like, dude, hey, don't say that. I don't want any more millions of dollars. No, he's going to say, hey, you do you. I'm going to keep playing. I don't think this is going to be anything more than just Scott Boras getting a microphone. It's exactly why they don't give him a microphone all the time.
No, and here's the other thing. He's got other people that are free agents. Why? That should be talked about down the road. He's got to get these other guys signed, man. It's just they got so many guys that they have to sign. So it's like,
yeah, but he's making money for himself down the road. Whenever he gets a contract, because it is a bargain. It's an AAV bargain. It's an annual average value bargain. There's no way around that. He knew it when he signed it, but he also knew he was getting the largest contract at that moment, and that was their goal. That's why the Phillies were able to push it to 13 years. They're like, okay, we'll give you 13.
Yeah.
You want that 330? We need it for 13. And now look what it's done. It's pushed everybody to 11-year contracts for shortstops. It's pushed guys past the time when they're going to play their position at an elite level because it squashes that AAV down.
It's a cheat code. It's called a cheat code. It's just a fight back from the owners. It's a fight back from the owners who care and who try, who are spending, who are being attacked by the owners who do not spend a lot, where they put all of this luxury tax BS on you. And it's not just money. I think that's important to keep in mind here too, okay?
Yep.
We just had a draft lottery where the New York Mets, for example, coming off a bad season on the field, but they spent money on their ball club, are being punished in the draft lottery 10 spots back. They were supposed to be the 9th pick. I might be off on this, right? 9th pick.
No.
Now they're the 19th
They went
pick.
to 19th. Yep.
So they get punished. So when you sign a longer deal like that, if you're a player, right, and you're like, oh, whatever, 40, whatever happens when I'm 40, you want the highest guaranteed dollars. The negotiating from a team perspective is great. We don't want to have to pay money to, I always use the example, Bob Nutting to put in his pocket with the Pirates. And we don't want to lose a draft pick because we're flying by luxury tax numbers. But we want to pay you what you think you're worth and what we think you're worth. So we just extend the years. Bogarts, Trey Turner contracts with other teams, obviously for Bogarts, etc. Right? So for me, my question is on the player agency side, if it's Boris saying that and not Bryce, does Bryce call him though and say, hey, let's not do that? I don't know if that's the best look for me right now. You know, because we understand where it's coming from. There are going to be some others that might look at it and be like, really? What are you trying to bargain with your team when you got 8 years left on your deal? That's my thing. Like he works for him. So
yeah,
he can call him and say, hey, I don't want you talking about that, right? You can say I'm a bargain. You can say what a freaking fit, but don't say, hey, we need an extension.
Boris is an empire. Boris is not only representing Bryce Harper. Boris will kick you to the curb if there's somebody else that will get him more value. And getting an extension, putting that out there, might not even have been for Bryce. It might get one of his other guys an extension. It might get one of his guys 10 years from now an extension. Because it's all talked about. So it's all about the talk.
Okay. Hey, we got our guy ready to go right now. Jack Curry coming to you from Yes Network all over the Juan Soto trade. Jack, great to have you on, man. Let's get right to it. Your thoughts on the deal getting done for the Yankees and what it's going to mean after you watch every single Yankee game all year and saw that offense last season.
First of all, good to be with you guys. And Scott, I said this on our show Monday night. This was a move the Yankees had to make. Their mission in this offseason was to add left-handed hitting. And if the best left-handed hitter on the market, or one of them, I mean, one of the best left-handed hitters in baseball is available, you had to figure out a way to make that happen. Cashman did a Zoom earlier today where I thought he revealed some interesting tidbits. The Yankees worked real hard to try and get Soto at the trade deadline last season. So when they entered the offseason this year, guys, they didn't start at zero in those trade talks. And I think that means a lot. They knew what Preller and the Padres would potentially be interested in. And I think that helped accelerate these talks. It stings to lose Michael King. And I have a ton of respect for Michael King. I actually think he has the second best stuff on the Yankees behind Garrett Cole. But you can't let Michael King be an obstacle to getting Juan Soto and pairing him up with Judge in that lineup.
Hey, Jack, my question to you is, did Cashman give any inkling to, signing other players? Or did he talk about, hey, this is the only thing we're doing? Or is he on the go right here? Is the next guy up maybe a Yamamoto or Frankie Montas or Jordan Hicks, just to name a couple of guys?
It's interesting, Todd. So you're taught in journalism school, right? Never ask any yes/no questions. So someone on the Zoom said, will pitching be your next focus? And Cashman said, yes. So pitching. And I don't want to throw any shade at the person who asked that question. He later on did expand a little bit. And you're right, Todd. Yamamoto is in their sights now. And this is interesting because I think there's going to be a robust market for him. I think Yamamoto could turn into a little bit more of a sweepstakes. The Yankees are meeting with him on Monday, and I think you have to throw everything at him. This is like recruiting that 5-star quarterback to come to your college. Figure out whatever it is that makes him tick and convince him that being a Yankee is where he needs to be. I am sure that Hideki Matsui, the iconic Japanese player who had a great career with the Yankees, I'm sure he'll be part of that process.
Okay, so if we're a little reactive here with Yankee fandom, you were just said Michael King had maybe the second best stuff in that rotation. Why the heck did Michael King only get 9 starts towards the end of the season when things were kind of, is it a bad evaluation? Is it a Jordan Montgomery type of situation where, oh crap, we had him, we lost him, maybe we should have done this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you only liked Michael King until about halfway through the year. Before that, the Yankees had him as kind of that swingman piece.
Coming off elbow surgery, Eric, they wanted to be careful with the amount of innings that they were going to use him. I think once they had built him up to the point that they were in the season, they liked where he was physically, and now you can stretch him out a little bit more. So I think the injury was what created that. I also think they liked King in that role. And I've asked Aaron Boone about this, and I've asked other managers about this. Sometimes that guy that you can use 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes he might have a little more value than the guy who is your 5th starter. I think of pitchers in Yankee history, Ramiro Mendoza, one of the most underrated players I've probably ever covered because of the sort of Swiss Army knife ability that he had as a pitcher. So I think had King been completely healthy, you would have seen him buy 4 more starts. And once a player gets traded, the team does rationalize it, Eric. And though I can say how great his stuff is, he's also 29 years old. He has 2 years left remaining before he becomes a free agent. So it's not as if you were going to have Michael King for the next 5 years, which again is why I think you swallow hard on having to make him part of that deal, but you make him part of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, Aaron Judge is going to be 32 this season. How much center field do you think the Yankees are comfortable with to also weigh the fact that the most important thing is him playing as many games as possible?
So, Scott, we talked about this on our shows the last couple of nights, and I know the Yankees' evaluation of their players, and they know their players so well. I don't know about the idea of Judge being your everyday center fielder and maybe playing, 100, 120 games. We don't know what Dominguez's situation is and when he'll come back from the Tommy John surgery. It's a draining position. Think about playing right field at Yankee Stadium. How often do you see Aaron Judge have to cover a ton of ground in right field? It's a compact area. His strides, 4 or 5 strides, he's back to the fence. Yeah, if he's running into the gaps, he might have to chase something down. So they seem comfortable and convinced that it's a position. We know he can handle it. We've seen him handle it before. I just think when you're putting more mileage on your best player, and he's 6'7" and 282, I do think that is something that you're going to have to watch very closely.
Is there a number that you think he should play? Is there a number of games out there hoping Dominguez comes back, hoping Grisham can not hit 191?
How about 4 times a week, couple in right field, and a DH spot? and you keep your fingers. Let's see if I got to be on camera here. You keep your fingers crossed. They do like Christian American. Like you, I see the average. I see it's a 216 lifetime average. Little bit of pop, plate discipline. But Cashman made a point of talking about him on the Zoom call and about his elite defensive abilities. But the thing is, are you subbing out Aaron Judge or Juan Soto late? Well, you're not subbing out Judge, but are you taking Juan Soto out in the 8th inning of a 3-1 game? No, there's no way you're doing that. I mean, 6-1, maybe, but it's going to be an interesting dynamic how that outfield situation plays out for them. And I do think that Dominguez coming back will make things a lot clearer because he could be your center fielder.
2014, we used to move Lorenzo Cain over to right field and bring in Gerard Dyson. You're talking about a Gold Glove center fielder, moved him to right field. Could the Yankees do that with Grisham?
Who was the right fielder? Who was the right fielder that you guys were taking out?
Nori Aoki.
All right, we're talking about Juan Soto, right? Or maybe Verdugo, but
that's what I'm saying.
Verdugo is a better corner outfielder. He's a defensive player you'd want to keep in there.
Correct.
I think these are great questions, and I think Aaron Boone and his staff are going to have to navigate that this year. I mean, you look at Garrett Cole, a guy who's going to have some balls hit in the air. You want Trent Grisham running down some of those baseballs in the outfield? You do. But you also want Soto and Judge and even Verdugo getting as many at-bats as possible. So this is why I love the sport that we cover, by the way, guys. It's December 7th, and we're plotting out where that Yankee outfield is going to go. I've never covered football, but I don't know. In the offseason, are they talking about how many defensive backs are they going to use in this team? If they are, but I'm a baseball guy, so I got the love for baseball.
Now, I want to go behind the plate here. So Higashioka's gone. Good pickup by the Padres. Trevino, we hung out the other day. He was back up here. He looked great. Is he the starting catcher right now? I know you got Wells and Royvet back there as well. They have 3 or 4 catchers on the 40-man roster. Is it Jose's to keep right now? To lose? Is that his spot?
I think it is, Todd. You look at the 22 that he had. I mean, an all-star season, and obviously beset by injuries last year. I actually think, and I don't know if you talked to him about this, I never got the chance to because this sort of happened later in the season. But, I mean, this guy was playing with an injury throughout the season and just sort of willed himself to keep playing. So I think if you're in Yankee land, you're saying to yourself, okay, Trevino comes back healthy, and you bring Wells along as the backup. Rortvedt would go to AAA and be the guy who's sort of in waiting. But I think they expect a lot out of Trevino. I think they think that a repeat of 22 is possible. But I also liked what I saw out of Wells last year. And what was interesting, and I don't know how much Eric saw of Wells last year. I'd love his perspective, is the one thing we heard about Wells, and this is why the scouting reports, they are what they are, but you want to put your own eyes on a guy. His bat is great. The defense is lagging. And then when you got him at the major leagues and you watched him defensively, Eric, I thought he was solid. And even John Flaherty, a former major league catcher who I work in the studio with, said, loved the way he received the ball, loved the way he got rid of the ball, loved the way that he handled everything. So if the defense is there and the offense was supposed to be ahead, maybe Wells vies for more playing time.
I had said this earlier. So you don't catch him. I don't catch him. Who won the Cy Young Award winner?
Yeah, well, Rortvedt,
and who caught him in September?
Rortvedt, yeah.
So,
but you know what's interesting about that? Rortvedt did a really nice job, and the Yankees even joked around about this. So I'm not trying to diss Rortvedt in any way. You ever seen a pitcher kind of push a catcher around as much as Cole was pushing Rortvedt around? There was a lot of back and forth, and you'd see Cole shake 4 times and be like, "Yeah, that's it." So there was some sort of tough love that I think Cole gave toward Rortvedt. I think Cole, though, will be fine pitching to Trevino or Wells. Maybe Rortvedt proves me wrong. Maybe Rortvedt has an unbelievable spring training, and Wells is the one who is in waiting. But I think they even though they've added Verdugo and added Soto, I think they like Wells hitting from that left side at Yankee Stadium too.
Jack, I have a follow-up for you from a fan watching right now. Matt Begley says, what's the backup plan for the Yanks if not Yamamoto? Because clearly they're going to put some budget together for a starting pitcher. Does that include then going to options B and C?
Todd mentioned this before, and I know this is not going to make fans do cartwheels and be overly excited, but I actually reported this in September. I think they're going to reunite with Frankie Montas. I think Montas on a one-year incentive-laden deal is actually a smart deal, whether you get Yamamoto, another frontline starter, or you don't. You need pitching depth, and you look at Montas, he was an injured player when the Yankees got him. Only ended up making a total of 9 starts in the Yankee portion of his career. I actually think that both sides kind of feel that there's unfinished business there. So I could see him being an option. I know Jordan Montgomery is someone that the Yankees had, someone they traded. He's a free agent. He's a lefty. There are still people in the organization who think very highly of him. I think he looms out there, but I really do think that the principal focus is Yamamoto, and they're going to push really hard to make that happen.
What was your take on the signing for the Mets of Severino? I mean, what did you see from him last year? A lot of people were confused, once he's back on the mound and the velocity was there, the pitches weren't as crisp. And did you think that he was a classic change of scenery case too, based on the injuries that were occurring for him? It was the lat, right, that kept being a problem?
Yeah, I think I think a one-year deal for Luis Severino is worth it for these reasons. And you just mentioned it, Scott. The velocity was there. He's a terrific athlete. He's a terrific competitor. But his fastball, it was so straight last year, and he wasn't fooling anyone. And there was talk all season long about whether or not he was tipping his pitches. And you guys know this as well as anyone. Eric maybe more than anyone. And David Cohn said this to me. He said, it's bad when somebody told you may be tipping your pitches. He said, it might be worse when you don't figure out what it is, because then it's in your head all season long. And guys, I just watched Severino look like a guy who was in quicksand almost every start. If he got through the first inning, you almost felt that the Yankee dugout had this collective exhale. So all of these things that I'm saying lead you to believe, well, then why the heck would he resurrect himself with the Mets? And again, I think it's because it's the velocity. I think the competitiveness. And I think there still could be something in there. Like anybody else, though, you got to stay healthy. And that's been a problem for Severino.
All right, I have one more Soto question that we didn't get in when we were talking about Soto. This team had an OPS of 701 last year. With Soto, you're hoping it goes up. If the Yankees win the World Series, is this the second greatest trade of all time in Yankees history?
Wow. Well, they acquired Alex Rodriguez, and he won a couple of MVPs, a World Series title. And there always seems to be everyone wants to focus on what Alex didn't do when he was in New York. But you look at some of Alex's numbers in New York. So I'm going to say that you've got to rank that one up there. Cashman had an in-season acquisition of David Justice, who was terrific for the Yankees and helped them win a World Series. But sure, Eric, and you didn't give me any numbers. So let's say if Soto hits 40 homers and has a 430 on-base percentage and a 950 OPS and helps resurrect that offense and the Yankees win a World Series, yeah, this would be in the conversation as a great trade, one of the greatest trades. No one would be talking about Michael King. No one would be talking about Drew Thorpe. They would then be pounding on Cashman's door and saying, you better make sure that you bring Soto back.
No numbers. That's why I didn't say numbers. It's all about number 28. If he hits 270 and has 32 homers and drives in 86 runs, and they put number 28 up in the rafters, that has to be a successful trade.
Oh my gosh, yes, and that would mean he was a part of it. I think he will be a more significant part of it than the numbers that you mentioned. What I love about him too, guys, is man, he plays every day. I've spoken with Yankee officials. I've spoken with people from other teams, and I know that the sports science these days will say that, well, a guy who plays 145 games and gets some selective rest is going to be more productive over the course of a season than a guy who maybe plays 155 games. And I don't know. I just think if you're young and you're hungry and you're ready to play, I love that Soto is a guy who pretty much plays every day.
All right, Jack, last question from me. We're talking about the pecking order here now. Soto with the Yankees. Let's say Ohtani goes to the Blue Jays. Talk to me now. Where do you think the ranks are in the AL East? Let's do it before Ohtani signs. Where do you see the Yankees right now first?
Well, I think with this acquisition and also Verdugo, I do think the Yankees have put themselves in position now where I'm not going to say they're the best team in the division because they got a lot of room to make up. I mean, they were 17 games behind the Rays last year. But have you moved yourself from a low 80s win team to a low 90s win team? And it's Todd, it's not just Soto and Verdugo and Grisham. I also think it's a full year of Judge. It's their belief that Rizzo is going to be healthy. Are they going to get anything from Stanton? So I would say they're a postseason team right now. I think they're a team that should make the playoffs. And as we've seen these days, get there. Just get there. The best teams last year in the regular season were watching at the end of the postseason. So figure out a way to align your roster that you can just get there.
Kratzy just said a comment on the computer that I'm one of the biggest homers, and you're actually not a Yankee homer, which is great. Either way,
no, you're being honest. You're being honest, and I love that.
Honest.
Jack, you go ahead.
I worked for the New York Times for 22 years. The first day I covered a Major League Baseball game, an older writer said to me, "You stopped being a fan today. You know that, right?" He said, "You're objective now. You're telling the story of what happened." And when I got hired by Yes, John Filippelli, who Todd knows as well, Flip, our boss, said, "I want you to do exactly what you did at the Times. If you wrote 900 words, take the best 5, 6, or 7 points from that article and talk about it on the air." So I'm going to be honest. I think if you're not, that people will question you and wonder why they should watch you. And I'm also not afraid to say, I don't know. There's sometimes we just don't know the answer. So there's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know it. Go try and find out what the answer is.
Well, I appreciate you because my first year coming in, I didn't know what to expect out of myself. But hey, listen,
can I out?
We
can
keep
I out
moving forward.
We're in the studio. We're in the Bob Lorenz's office. He's got a fantastic office, man. You're watching the game. Todd can't sit still. He eats dinner. He eats dinner in about 90 seconds. He inhales whatever the heck we're eating. And then Bob's got some baseball bats and some old gloves. Todd's throwing the ball into it's like he's still playing, man. He can't sit still.
I can't. I don't know why I can. And you hear me yelling.
He's still got the jumpiness, and
I
also
can't stop moving here.
Yeah, look at the studio he's in right now, Jack. Downstairs, he can full on play a damn game, have hitting instructions with the kiddos. Like he can do it all down there. So I mean, he built a gymnasium basically.
We had a 2 p.m. Soto trade hot stove show, and then we didn't have another one until 10:30. So Bob Lorenz and I were hanging around, and we were actually talking about your Instagram, Todd. And I said, man, he's got these kids. And in New Jersey, what a gift, because I grew up in New Jersey. Yeah. And, man, when the cold weather comes, baseball's gone. You're going to play basketball or something. He's got those kids in there every day. That's awesome, and I hope those kids and their families understand the value of that and just how much that means to those kids going forward.
No doubt. I appreciate that, and hopefully we'll keep working as the years move forward here. It'll be fun.
Thanks, Jack. We appreciate you coming on for this. Obviously, I know you had a busy 24 hours, and you can follow Jack at Jack Curry. Yes. See him on Yes. Read everything that he puts out there, too. So, Jack, appreciate you. Thank you very much. Great to have you on here for the first time.
Scott, Eric, Todd, great chatting with you guys. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Thanks, you. Brother. Absolutely. What a day. What a freaking day. Juan Soto, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jeimer Candelario, and yet, like I mentioned, still most of the dudes on the table for this offseason. So, a lot of people. What?
Nick Senzel.
Sure. Yeah, throw it out there. Hey, Nick Senzel was a high first-round pick, great athlete.
Stands, baby.
He's a prime example of the Reds. Like, he was going to be the guy. He was going to be Spencer Steer. He was going to be, he was a second baseman, but like he just started moving. I saw his season when he was debuting, when I was playing for the Giants. And it just shows that you have to strike while the iron's hot. He's a good player.
That's your word. That's your saying of the day. Now that's twice. I love that.
Strike while the iron's hot. Did I say it before?
You did. I love that.
like
But you're right. You're 100% right. It's what have you done for me lately mentality, bro. And that's life in the fast lane. It is what it is now. Bro. Pitching's getting better.
That's baseball too.
That's it, man. It is.
You have a big free agent year, you get paid for it, right? Jordan Montgomery made himself double. Blake Snell made himself more than double. Think about it. Just coming off this past season, Jeimer made himself
triple,
more than triple. I mean, his average annual value went up, I think, triple. I think exactly 300%. Let's slap. Yeah, it's the trio, the original slap hands bros. Kratz, what do you got?
Columbus Clippers are ringing your bells. I think it was our BP hats. It's a nice little, Todd, you remember playing in Columbus and that
I do.
That video that they would play before games?
Shoot,
when they opened the park, I think in like 09, 08, 09, something like that. They started the ships are going out and like do and like the ships are shooting missiles out and stuff like that, and they're like Columbus Clippers ring your bells. So
that was nice.
Hey, you had to be there.
Do you remember in high A? Did you play in the Florida State League?
No, I was on the Phantom IL, but I saw
the Fort Myers Miracle, which are the Twins organization.
Fort Misery.
It was great. They would come out like their song would be like, and now here comes the miracle. Like, are you ready for a miracle? Ready as can be. And I'm like in the dark, ready for a miracle? Free to set you free. Like it was the best come out song ever. And I just remember it. Whatever.
And you were sweating your face off too in Florida.
Oh God, man. Oh.
We're clipping that and sending it to them. So it's going to be fantastic. They're going to love it. That might be part of their hype video for the offseason.
You never know.
Todd Frazier saying.
Quick reminder for everyone, our sponsor, our friends over at BetMGM have the $1,500 first bet offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Download the app on iOS, Android, or at BetMGM.com. You can go sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account, your new account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. And if the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Jamie Foxx, always bringing it, always excited. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLING. That's it for today. It was a day. A little overtime sesh with Jack Curry, who was awesome. Great to have Jack on. Yep. I mean, we covered Soto. Over the last 24 hours, you want Soto trade coverage? We did it for both sides. Padres, Yanks, the whole deal. Let's get some more deals done. On our way out here with the music, what do you got? When's Ohtani signing? I got to stick with what I got at this point. Friday, 9:30 p.m. What do you guys have?
Wait, this Friday?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's signing tomorrow. 9:30. Tomorrow night.
No chance, bro.
What do you got? Give me a day. Give me daytime on the way out.
January 5th.
Whoa!
No, stop. Todd, you need to watch FT more. No, I'm saying I'm going with either Monday at 10:30 at night.
I'm going to find out on the phone.
Or Saturday morning at like 9:30. It's happening before next Monday.
Okay. I'm going to find out and I'm going to tweet about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Find out and let us know tomorrow. Todd Father and Low Kane tomorrow with us.
I might change my mind. I don't care.
I hope he signs tomorrow. So it's Low Kane, Todd Father, and me. Ohtani Day tomorrow. We'll see everyone then.
Next week, Kyle Higashioka coming on FT.